Chapter 2030. Upon seeing ZK and the others, Emo Qingyun's figure flashed, and he returned to the 10,000 soul purgatory saint formation without hesitation. With his current combat strength, it was unrealistic for him to fight ZK and the others head-on. With Shuelong and the other two outside, the 10,000 soul purgatory saint formation won't be able to hold them off for long. After returning to the 10,000 soul purgatory saint formation, Emo Qingyun's expression darkened as his brain spun rapidly. I have to find a solution before they break the formation. Otherwise, once they break the formation, I'll have no choice but to wait for my death. Just as Emo Qingyun was lost in thought, a series of complacent words came from outside the array formation. Emo Qingyun, weren't you very powerful earlier? Why are you acting like a coward now? Come out and fight me again if you dare. How about I give you a handicap of one hand? How about I give you a handicap of both hands and a leg? Clamoring voices came from outside the 10,000 soul purgatory saint formation. Emo Qingyun smiled disdainfully at their words and chose to ignore them. Just now, under his attack, each and every one of these fellows were like cowards. Now that ZK and the others had arrived, they had become arrogant instead. It was a classic case of a dog relying on its master's power to bully others. Emo Qingyun, I admire your talent. If you're willing to submit to my tribe, I'll put you in an important position. ZK solemnly promised Emo Qingyun after the crowd's clamor. He threw an olive branch at Emo Qingyun. In his eyes, Emo Qingyun was a rare talent. If he could recruit Emo Qingyun for his own use, it would be a great help. With Emo Qingyun's cultivation talent, he would be invincible in the wasteland continent in at most 100 years. At that time, with Emo Qingyun's help, the Dark Devil tribe would invade on a large scale. They would be invincible. Divine Ancestor ZK, I'm afraid this isn't appropriate. Emo Qingyun killed so many of our disciples. Don't you think it's too much to recruit him now? ZK, you're looking down on us. At most, we'll fight to the death. Everyone, please calm down. The most important thing now is to capture Emo Qingyun. As soon as ZK spoke, the people from the other factions immediately expressed their dissatisfaction. ZK ignored the dissatisfaction of Situ Qing and the others. His attitude did not change as he said, Emo Qingyun, you should know very well that you have no chance of escaping in the current situation. You only have a chance if you submit to my tribe. Hearing ZK's words, the People's Sex Elders' faces immediately darkened. Let's wait and see what happens first. ZK's reaction. With Emo Qingyun's character, that kid's character. He may not. S's. Given his character, he might not K's. To K's tus tus. Mo's. Shintu Urshan's face darkened when he heard Shenchali's words. He suppressed the anger in his heart. While Shenchali was trying to persuade Shintu Erzhan, Situ Qing was also trying to persuade Situ Qing not to be in a hurry to express his stance. Seeing that the people from the Immortal Slaying Hall and the Madman League did not express any dissatisfaction, Ding Zhao and the others naturally did not say anything. The Anti-Immortal Alliance was weak now. It was better not to say too much, lest they brought a fatal disaster upon themselves. Inside the 10,000 soul purgatory sacred array, Emo Qingyun's expression became even more solemn when he heard ZK's words. It was impossible for him to submit to ZQuebec. However, he might be able to use this opportunity to stall for time. Divine Ancestor ZK, I need to consider your proposal carefully. Emo Qingyun pondered for a moment before replying to ZK. How about this, give me 5 days to think about it. I'll give you an answer in 5 days. 5 days? Why don't you say you'll consider it for a year? Senior ZK, this kid is clearly trying to stall for time. He has no intention of submitting at all. That's right. Senior ZK, why don't you just capture him and force him to submit? Hearing Emo Qingyun's words, they immediately expressed their dissatisfaction and suggested to Z Quebec, 1 day. I'll give you 1 day to consider it. ZK's expression did not change when he heard everyone's words. He said coldly, I hope you can give me a satisfactory answer in 1 day. I admire you very much. I hope you won't disappoint me. Seeing ZK's decision, Situ Qing and the others' expressions immediately turned gloomy. Shintu Erzhan pondered for a moment before gesturing to Xue Long and the other two to start breaking the array. After receiving Shintu Ershan's signal, Xue Long and the other two exchanged glances and started breaking the 10,000-soul purgatory sacred array. Sensing Xue Long and the other two's actions, Emo Qingyun's expression immediately turned cold. He said with slight anger, Divine Ancestor ZK, what a delaying tactic. How can I believe you when you're doing this? Hearing Emo Qingyun's words, ZK's expression turned cold. He looked at Xue Long and the other two and said, The 3 of you, stop first. Since I said I'd give him 1 day, I naturally can't go back on my word. Senior ZK, hearing ZK's words, Xue Long revealed an anxious expression and wanted to persuade Z Quebec. He had thought it through very clearly. Now that they had offended Emo Qingyun, if they could not get rid of Emo Qingyun, they would not be able to eat or sleep in peace. With their strength, if Emo Qingyun took revenge on them, the consequences would be unimaginable. Before Xue Long finished speaking, he swallowed the second half of his words under ZK's cold gaze. Seeing that Xue Long and the other two had stopped, Emo Qingyun's expression relaxed a little. He quickly sent a voice transmission to the shaman remnant Will, Senior, how much longer will it take to complete the King Devourer's inheritance? I'm afraid I can't hold on for much longer. Hearing Emo Qingyun's voice transmission, the shaman remnant Will immediately became anxious and said nervously, It's almost 90% complete. It still needs about 1 day. Try your best to stall for time. 1 day. Hearing the shaman remnant Will's words, Emo Qingyun's expression tensed up a little, and he could not help but clench his fists tightly. Would he be able to delay until then? With a worried heart, Emo Qingyun sent a voice transmission to the shaman remnant Will again. Senior, if I can't stall for time, I hope you can help me when I fight against the 4 forces. Although the shaman remnant Will was very weak, the aura he exuded was still at the level of the mastery of the Saint Realm. If Emo Qingyun merged with his power, he should be able to fight with ZK and the others for a while. Anyway, he would stall for time. Okay, even if I have to sacrifice my life, I'll do my best to support you. Hearing Emo Qingyun's request, the shaman remnant Will did not hesitate to agree. His tone was full of determination. Hearing the shaman remnant Will's words, Emo Qingyun was relieved. Now all he could do was wait. 1 day passed in the blink of an eye. Seeing that the time for the reply was up, Emo Qingyun's expression immediately became dignified, and he prepared to fight. Chapter 2031. Emo Qingyun, it's time. ZK's voice came from outside the 10,000-soul purgatory sacred array. Upon hearing ZK's words, Emo Qingyun did not waste any more words. Instead, he replied calmly, Let's fight. Let's fight. These 2 simple words perfectly expressed Emo Qingyun's thoughts. ZK was not angered by Emo Qingyun's reply. He did not feel that Emo Qingyun was toying with him previously. Kid, although you and I are not on the same side, you are still a respectable enemy. ZK praised Emo Qingyun and once again expressed his admiration for Emo Qingyun. Don't worry. When you die at my hands later, I will give you a proper burial. Upon hearing ZK's words, Shintu Erzhan and the others' faces darkened. They were somewhat dissatisfied with ZK's actions. ZK was too arrogant. He had not even asked for their opinion and had already made another promise to Emo Qingyun. He was clearly treating them as if they did not exist and simply did not take them seriously. After dealing with Emo Qingyun, we will slowly deal with you. At that moment, Shintu Erzhan and the others were silently thinking in their hearts. ZK had crossed their bottom line time and time again. They could no longer endure it. Thanks. Upon hearing ZK's words, Mo Qingyun casually thanked him and said, however, it won't be easy for you to kill me. We still can't determine who will have the last laugh. Then I will wait and see. Outside the 10,000 soul purgatory sacred array, ZK replied with a faint smile and continued to ignore Sidhu Erzhan and the others. At that moment, it seemed like only Mo Qingyun could be considered a worthy opponent in his eyes. Seeing that he could not recruit Mo Qingyun, ZK did not waste any more time. He nodded at Xuelong and the other two and said, "The three of you, please take action now and break this 10,000 soul purgatory sacred array." Yes. Hearing ZK's words, Xuelong and the others didn't dare hesitate and immediately went to break the formation. As Xuelong and the other two attacked, the runes of the 10,000 soul purgatory sacred array began to be destroyed one after another. No, we can't let the three of them break the formation. Seeing Xuelong's group's actions, Mo Qingyun's face turned cold. He had to think of a way to stop them. After pondering for a short while, Mo Qingyun's expression turned cold as a gray light flashed across his left eye. Imperial Seal Kill Spirit Eyes. A terrifying soul power burst out from Mo Qingyun's left eye and turned into a soul power imprint. In the blink of an eye, the soul force imprint blasted into the silver rock's sea of consciousness, causing the silver rock to emit a miserable cry. However, Silver Rock let out a blood-curdling scream and quickly regained his consciousness. As Saint Array Masters, the Silver Rock Trio's soul force was far stronger than others. Therefore, Mo Qingyun's soul attack didn't do much damage to the three of them. Go and protect Xuelong and the other two. Don't let Mo Qingyun ambush them again. Seeing Silver Rock being attacked by Mo Qingyun, ZK's expression turned cold and he immediately ordered a group of people. Hearing ZK's order, more than 10 Saint Stage experts immediately came to Xuelong's side. Seeing ZK and the others' actions, Mo Qingyun's expression turned even more solemn, his brows tightly knitted together. Under such a defense, it was impossible for him to kill Xuelong and the other two. Got it. After pondering for a moment, Mo Qingyun's lips curled into a cold smile as he came up with a countermeasure. If you want to protect Xuelong and the other two, I'll kill all of you at once. With a thought, Mo Qingyun immediately ordered the thousands of ghosts to charge out of the formation and attack Xuelong and the other two. The group of people protecting Xuelong immediately revealed a disdainful smile when they saw the thousands of ghosts charging at them. They said, "Although there are many ghosts, other than a few Saint Stage ghosts, the rest of the 9 heavens mysterious immortal realm ghosts can't cause us any trouble." After learning the overall cultivation level of the ghosts, ZK and the others didn't make a move. They just watched indifferently from the side. With the dozen Saint Stage experts making a move, it was enough to kill the ghost. There was no need for them to make a move. Boom. Boom. While everyone was thinking this, the thousands of ghosts suddenly self-destructed, creating a terrifying storm of force. Seeing this scene, everyone was dumbfounded. Their faces were filled with shock. They never thought that Mo Qingyun would use such a method. Quick! Quick, protect Xuelong and the others. Don't let them get hurt. This guy is crazy. Does he not care about the ghosts' lives? Don't worry about Mo Qingyun for now. Silver Rock and the others have been swallowed by the storm of force. Quick, save them. In a moment of desperation, ZK and the others' expressions changed as they rushed toward the storm of force. They knew very well that once Xuelong and the other two were seriously injured, the situation would take a turn for the worse. Seeing ZK and the others' actions, Mo Qingyun's face was filled with madness. He laughed loudly and said, "It won't be easy to save Xuelong and the others. Since that's the case, I'll let all of you experience the feeling of being blown up by the ghost's self-destruction." As soon as Mo Qingyun finished speaking, He ordered the remaining ghosts to rush out of the formation and self-destruct. Instantly, thousands of ghosts rushed out of the formation and charged towards ZK and the others. Oh no, Emo Qingyun has gone crazy. He's planning to make all the ghosts self-destruct. Retreat. Quick, retreat. If all the ghosts self-destruct together, we won't be able to withstand it. This madman, is he going to destroy us all? Seeing Emo Qingyun's crazy actions, the people from the 4 major factions were terrified. They complained one after another. Ever since they started cultivating, they had never encountered someone as crazy as Emo Qingyun. Boom, boom, boom. Both sides were too close. Under the attack of the ghosts, even ZK and the others could not escape in time. Instantly, waves of destructive force storms engulfed all of them. My hand, my eyes. My body, no. I don't want to die. Emo Qingyun, I'm going to peel your skin and pull out your tendons. For a moment, screams of pain and anger could be heard from the storm of energy. However, while everyone was raging, Emo Qingyun had already left the 10,000-soul Purgatory Saint formation and fled into the Shaman faction's ancestral tomb. Under the impact of the force storm, the 10,000-soul Purgatory Saint formation had begun to collapse and was about to be destroyed. Boom! Under the impact of the force storm, the 10,000-soul Purgatory Saint formation was finally destroyed, creating a force storm. For a moment, the area within 100 miles of the 10,000-soul Purgatory Saint formation became a purgatory. Following the destruction of the 10,000-soul Purgatory Saint formation, the force storm spread into the Shaman faction's ancestral tomb and chased after Emo Qingyun. Fortunately, Emo Qingyun had set up quite a number of formations beforehand and intercepted the force storm for him. In the blink of an eye, Emo Qingyun's previous hardships were all for naught. Chapter 2032. The formation has been completely destroyed. We can only fight with our backs to the wall now. Emo Qingyun clenched his fists when he saw that the formation he had set up had been destroyed and the ghosts had all exploded and dissipated. He had no way out and could only choose to confront ZK and the others head-on. Under Emo Qingyun's gaze, the storm of force around the 10,000-soul Purgatory Saint formation began to slowly dissipate. As the storm of force dissipated, ZK and the others, who had been swallowed by the storm of force, slowly revealed their figures. Under the impact of the storm of force, they had suffered heavy losses. Nearly 40% of their disciples had been killed. Most of the remaining people were severely injured and could no longer participate in the battle. Even ZK, Situqing, Shintu Erzhan, and Ding Zhao had suffered heavy injuries under the storm of force. This time, their confrontation with Emo Qingyun had ended in defeat. As expected of a talent that I value highly. You really can't be underestimated. Although he had been severely injured by Emo Qingyun, ZK still praised him. His expression gradually turned cold. I didn't expect that after thousands of years, I would be seriously injured by a junior in the Taishian immortal realm. Emo Qingyun, you have performed very well. I will make your funeral even more grand. Hearing ZK's words, Shintu Erzhan and the others were shocked. They knew that ZK was really angry. Then, they followed ZK and walked into the ancestral tomb of the sorcerer faction. They had not walked far when they saw Emo Qingyun, who was waiting for them not far away. At this moment, Emo Qingyun gave them the feeling that he could hold back 10,000 enemies alone. I've been waiting for you for a long time. Let's fight. Looking at ZK and the others who were approaching, Emo Qingyun did not waste any time and directly declared war. As soon as Emo Qingyun finished speaking, he cast the combination gate and prepared to fight with the people from the 4 major forces. As the combination gate was cast, Emo Qingyun merged with the Sorcerer Remnant thought and borrowed the power of the Sorcerer Remnant thought for his own use. Soon, Emo Qingyun's aura had broken through to the Saint stage. However, when Emo Qingyun's cultivation broke through to the intermediate stage of the Sage Realm, his body couldn't bear it anymore. Cracks began to appear on the surface of his body, and traces of blood seeped out. If the fusion continued, he would be in danger of exploding. Brat, stop. What you're doing is too dangerous. Noticing Emo Qingyun's situation, the sorcerer's remnant consciousness immediately reminded him, worried that Emo Qingyun's body would explode. Emo Qingyun did not accept the reminder of the sorcerer's remnant will. He said with a determined expression, "Senior, we have no way out. I have to fuse with your power." Melt. Emo Qingyun roared angrily. A terrifying demonic aura instantly erupted from his body. The bloodline power of the heavenly soul demons was activated at this moment. As the bloodline power of the heavenly soul demons was activated, a huge demon god shadow penetrated the starry sky and shrouded his body. With the support of the demon god shadow, his body that was about to collapse stabilized in the blink of an eye. Seeing Emo Qingyun's performance, the sorcerer's remnant consciousness was relieved and did not say anything more. Puff puff puff. As Emo Qingyun activated the bloodline power of the heavenly soul demons, those who were seriously injured spat out blood. Then, they looked at Emo Qingyun with great shock. Originally, they had thought that Emo Qingyun would be at his wits' end by now. They didn't expect Emo Qingyun to have such a trick up his sleeve. It was unbelievable. Ancient bloodline. The density of this brat's bloodline is too terrifying. He can activate the protection of the ancestor demon. This means that his bloodline grade can still be upgraded. Once it is upgraded, it will be the ancestral bloodline. What a terrifying brat. When ZK and the others sensed Emo Qingyun's bloodline grade, their expressions changed, and their heartbeats accelerated to the extreme. In their knowledge, the density of the god race's bloodline would become weaker and weaker with the passage of time. Emo Qingyun did the opposite. The density of his bloodline was becoming stronger and stronger until it reached the level of the ancestor demon of the heavenly soul demons. If they didn't see it with their own eyes, they wouldn't believe it. Once Emo Qingyun's bloodline reached the ancestral bloodline, the heavenly soul demons would return to their peak. Bloodline power would be looked up to by all races. Under everyone's shocked gaze, Emo Qingyun's cultivation stabilized and reached the late-stage Sage Realm. Compared to Emo Qingyun's increase in strength, ZK and the others were weakened by a lot under the suppression of the combination gate. However, under the stimulation of Emo Qingyun's actions, they ignored the drop in their cultivation. Shadow Dragon Transformation. After completing the fusion, Emo Qingyun's figure moved and his body began to grow rapidly. In the blink of an eye, Emo Qingyun transformed into the Primordial Shadow Dragon and took the initiative to attack ZK and the others. Although he had the support of the ancestor demon Shadow, his body couldn't last long. He had to end the battle quickly. Otherwise, once his body reached its limit, he could only wait helplessly for his death. Saint Demon Star-Shattering Fist. Emo Qingyun's figure flashed and arrived in front of Z-Quebec. He threw a punch at Z-Quebec. A terrifying power of creation gathered on Emo Qingyun's fist and turned into a huge shadow of a fist. When the shadow of the fist was thrown, it stirred up the wind and clouds and caused the space to tremble. What a powerful punch! This brat's battle strength is comparable to a late-stage Sage Realm expert. He can borrow power that he can't bear and use it so perfectly. He's the first person. What a monstrous brat! I'm starting to admire him now. If this brat cultivates for another 10,000 years, he'll be invincible on the wild continent. No wonder ZK thinks so highly of him. This brat is indeed a rare talent. For a time, Situ Qing and the others' opinion of Emo Qingyun changed greatly. Their opinion of Emo Qingyun had changed. Situ Qing and the others put away their contempt and attacked Emo Qingyun with all their might. Immortal Slaying Mad Dragon Sword. Fiery Star Finger. Invincible World Breaking Slash. Sumeru million Buddha palm. Divine thunder sky breaking curse. ZK and the others used all their strength and performed their strongest divine powers and celestial technique. They didn't dare to underestimate Emo Qingyun. Suddenly, a terrifying shadow of a palm, finger, and sword appeared one after another and went to meet Emo Qingyun's shadow of a fist. Seeing Emo Qingyun and the others attack, the rest of the people from the four major forces hurriedly retreated in shock. This battle was too terrifying. Once they were sucked into it, they would be killed instantly. While they were retreating, Emo Qingyun and the others' attacks collided domineeringly. Boom! Boom! Suddenly, a terrifying sound reverberated through the heavens and earth. A destructive storm of saint power formed in the ancestral tomb of the Magus clan, and began to attack the tomb. Under the impact of the storm, more than half of the ancestral tomb of the sorcerer faction was destroyed in the blink of an eye and turned into a messy place. Seeing this, ZK and the others retreated to avoid the impact of the storm of saint energy. However, Emo Qingyun didn't choose to retreat in the face of the storm of saint energy. Instead, he stayed where he was. Behind him was the place where the King Devourer's inheritance was. He had to stop the storm of saint energy. Otherwise, if he allowed the storm of saint energy to sweep through, it would disturb the King Devourer's inheritance. Disperse. Emo Qingyun struck out with his palm. The power of creation on his palm surged wildly and turned into a giant palm. Under the impact of the giant palm, the storm of saint energy that was sweeping toward Emo Qingyun was instantly dispersed. After a while, when the storm of saint energy dissipated, Emo Qingyun's figure was revealed. He still stood where he was like a god of war. No one could take half a step forward. This kid didn't even dodge the storm of saint energy. Look at this kid's actions. He seems to be guarding something. Although this kid is cunning, he's a man of principle. He's worthy of respect. Don't just stand there. Let's end this quickly so that he can be freed. Seeing Emo Qingyun's actions, ZK and the others were once again impressed. They admitted that they couldn't do this. ZK and the others discussed for a while. Then, they moved and charged toward Emo Qingyun. At this moment, ZK and the others attacked even more fiercely than before. Demonic star splitting palm. Heavenly sun star piercing eyes. Imperial seal spirit eyes. 9x9 demonic god slaughtering sword formation. Facing the onslaught of ZK and the others, Emo Qingyun perked up 120% and unleashed all of his abilities. Even so, he was still suppressed and put up a final struggle under ZK and the others' attacks. It couldn't be helped. The disparity in combat strength between the two sides was too great. It was already extremely difficult for him to come this far. Emo Qingyun, I'm really surprised that you can come this far. However, your strength is still not enough. In the battle with Emo Qingyun, ZK had a solemn expression and praised him. He then said, I appreciate that you're a rare talent. I'll give you one last chance. If you're willing to submit to me, I can guarantee that you won't die. I, Emo Qingyun, would rather die than submit to you. In the face of ZK's recruitment, Emo Qingyun's expression was firm. He wasn't moved at all. Seeing Emo Qingyun's actions, ZK couldn't help but feel pity. His attacks became even fiercer. Sky-devouring ice palm. ZK blasted out a palm and a chill erupted from his body. A terrifying sky-devouring ice saint power blasted out from his palm. As soon as the sky-devouring ice saint power appeared, it emitted a terrifying devouring power that absorbed the power between heaven and earth. In the blink of an eye, ZK's ice palm's aura skyrocketed and suppressed Emo Qingyun domineeringly. ZK's palm also enveloped Situqing and the others who were fighting with Emo Qingyun. Old dog ZK, you've gone too far. ZK, you and I are irreconcilable. ZK, you're heartless. Don't blame us for being unrighteous. Shintu Erzhan and the others were enraged by ZK's attack and quickly dodged ZK's palm. ZK ignored the anger of Shintu Erzhan and the others. He looked at Emo Qingyun indifferently. Under ZK's palm, Emo Qingyun's expression immediately tensed up. He raised his hand and met ZK's palm. Heavenly demonic star-splitting palm. Emo Qingyun's palm blasted out and collided with the ice palm, creating a terrifying saint power wave. After receiving ZK's palm, Emo Qingyun was sent flying by the terrifying power. Chapter 2033. Boom. There was a loud explosion. Under ZK's palm, Emo Qingyun was directly smashed into the ground, raising a huge cloud of dust. Looking at the rolling cloud of dust on the ground, everyone felt complicated. They didn't know if they should be happy or sad. After several exchanges, Emo Qingyun was finally forced to the end of his rope. But now they didn't feel the slightest bit of joy. They didn't feel the slightest bit of victory. They were a group of Sage Realm ancestors, but they had to join forces to deal with a junior at the Tai Xian Immortal Realm. This kind of thing was a little disgraceful. More importantly, from the beginning of the battle until now, they hadn't gained the slightest bit of advantage. When everyone thought of this, they couldn't help but feel a sense of respect for Emo Qingyun. Under everyone's gaze, the dust on the ground dissipated bit by bit. After a short while, when the dust had completely dissipated, Emo Qingyun's figure appeared again. When everyone saw Emo Qingyun's appearance, they were all stunned. They couldn't believe their eyes. Emo Qingyun's injuries have healed? What's going on? What a powerful bloodline pressure. This isn't the bloodline power of the Heavenly Soul Demon Clan. Emo Qingyun has other powerful bloodlines. Although the purity of this bloodline power isn't as high as the Heavenly Soul Demon Clan's bloodline, its grade is higher than the Heavenly Soul Demon Clan's bloodline. This is the absolute beginning creation bloodline. I didn't expect Emo Qingyun to have such a powerful bloodline. Absolute beginning creation bloodline? Could there be a mistake? Didn't the absolute beginning creation clan disappear for hundreds of millions of years? When they sensed the bloodline in Emo Qingyun's body, the people from the four major forces were shocked. They couldn't believe it was real. They would never have thought that such a terrifying bloodline was hidden in Emo Qingyun's body. Absolute beginning creation bloodline. Good, very good. When he sensed Emo Qingyun's bloodline power, a bright smile appeared on ZK's face. He said, Emo Qingyun, you've brought me more and more surprises. It turns out that the aura of the Gate of Destinies on your body was an illusion. If ZK knew that Emo Qingyun's body really had the Gate of Destinies, he would probably be even more shocked. ZK's gaze when he looked at Emo Qingyun had undergone a drastic change after he spoke those words. At this moment, Emo Qingyun was like a huge treasure in his eyes. With an excited expression, he looked at the Heavenly Soul Demon Clan's body and said, Emo, I'll give you one last chance. As long as you're willing to submit to my clan and provide me with some blood every 100 years, I'll spare your life. How's that? I'd rather die than spare you. Fight. Faced with ZK's proposal, Emo Qingyun showed a determined expression and stood proudly in the huge pit. When they saw Emo Qingyun's action, the expressions of the people from the four major forces changed and their emotions became even more complicated. They didn't understand what kind of belief could make Emo Qingyun's state of mind so firm. No wonder this lad has such achievements. His state of mind is too tough. It's a pity. If this lad doesn't die, his name will definitely shake the 9 heavens in the future. If he doesn't die, he'll be our nightmare. We won't be able to eat or sleep in peace. Stop talking, let's do it. Seeing Emo Qingyun's attitude, the people from the four major forces sighed and charged towards Emo Qingyun. Facing the attack of the four major forces, Emo Qingyun was not afraid at all and directly faced them head-on. Soon Emo Qingyun and ZK's group were engaged in a fierce battle. Boom boom boom, as Emo Qingyun and the others fought, terrifying aftershocks of the battle erupted with them as the center. After fighting for a while with ZK and the others, Emo Qingyun was once again defeated and was blasted into the ground. The difference in strength between the two sides was too great. It was no longer something that bloodline could make up for. Moreover, the bloodline of the mermaid that ZK planted was not weak compared to the bloodline of the Heavenly Soul Demon tribe. After blasting Emo Qingyun into the ground again, ZK and the others stopped and looked at Emo Qingyun condescendingly. After a while, the dust dissipated and Emo Qingyun's figure reappeared. He still had an unyielding expression. However, the current Emo Qingyun's aura was weaker than before. It should be that the saint power of the sorcerer's remnant was running out. Emo Qingyun, the power that you borrowed is starting to run out. Do you still want to be stubborn? Sensing that Emo Qingyun's aura was weakening, ZK widened his eyes and spoke with an exasperated attitude. Although ZK was defeated time and time again in the battle with Emo Qingyun, he really admired Emo Qingyun. In his eyes, Emo Qingyun was a genius that was hard to come by in 10,000 years. It would be a pity if such a person was killed. Fight. Faced with ZK's recruitment again, Emo Qingyun roared angrily. He exerted strength in his legs and shot up into the sky. As Emo Qingyun's figure flew, a terrifying flame energy erupted from his body. Wrapped in the flame energy, Emo Qingyun was like a red sun and arrived in front of ZK in the blink of an eye. When Emo Qingyun arrived in front of ZK, he brandished his tiger soul and slashed at Z Quebec Ghost Shadow Slash. With a slash, Emo Qingyun's body split into 7 and slashed at ZK from different directions. ZK was the strongest among them. As long as he could injure ZK, the others would not be a concern. Fire of civilization. Seeing the flames outside Emo Qingyun's body, ZK's expression turned serious and he immediately blocked Emo Qingyun's attack. ZK grabbed at the void and quickly took out an ice sword and waved it rapidly. Thousand Forms Sacred Ice Sword. Under ZK's waving, the ice sword immediately slashed out sword shadows that flew around ZQuebec. In a short moment, thousands of ice sword shadows appeared around ZK's body. When these ice sword shadows appeared, they formed an ice enchantment, displaying a terrifying defensive power. Clang clang clang, when the cold ice sword shadow boundary was formed, Emo Qingyun's saber light slashed out and slammed into the ice boundary. In the face of Emo Qingyun's saber light attack, a crisp sound immediately came from the frigid sword shadow boundary. Crack crack crack, after a series of crisp sounds, cracks appeared on the frigid ice sword shadow boundary, but it didn't immediately shatter. Seeing this, ZK smiled faintly and said, "If you had used this superpower in the beginning, you might have been able to threaten me a little. But now, it's far from enough." Thousand Forms Ice Dragon Rain Sword. As soon as ZK finished speaking, he quickly waved the ice sword in his hand and blasted out a terrifying saint power. Suddenly, snowflakes danced in the sky and ice rain fell, bombarding Emo Qingyun with extreme speed. After being hit by ZK's slash, Emo Qingyun was once again blasted away and fell to the ground. When Emo Qingyun fell to the ground, hideous wounds appeared on his body. Looking at the severely injured Emo Qingyun, ZK put his hands behind his back and said coldly, "Emo Qingyun, my patience is limited. I'll give you one last chance. You don't have to say any more. I, Emo Qingyun, would rather die standing than live kneeling." Without waiting for ZK to finish his words, Emo Qingyun raised his hand and interrupted him, staring at him with an unyielding expression. Looking at Emo Qingyun's actions, ZK's face turned cold, and a murderous aura exuded from his body. He was really angry. Emo Qingyun's performance had completely made him lose his patience. "All right, since you're looking for death, I'll grant you your wish." As soon as ZK finished speaking, he took the initiative to attack Emo Qingyun, waving his ice sword wildly. Suddenly, streaks of sharp sword light slashed out from ZK's ice sword. "This kid is really stubborn. Let's not just watch. Since he's itching for a beating, we'll fulfill his wish and help him loosen his bones. Emo Qingyun, to think that you'll have such a day. I'm going to torture you. To show my respect to you, I'll use all my strength later. Sensing that Emo Qingyun's aura had weakened, Shintu Erzhan and the others no longer hesitated and attacked Emo Qingyun one after another. Emo Qingyun did not resign himself to death in the face of Shintu Erzhan and the others' attack. Instead, he resisted with all his might. Unfortunately, the saint energy of the sorcerer's remnant was dispersing, causing his strength to weaken continuously. As such, he was no match for ZK and the others when they joined forces. Subsequently, Emo Qingyun was sent flying by ZK and the others like a sandbag. Seeing Emo Qingyun's actions, Shenchuli and Situcheng sneered and prepared to sneak into the ancestral tomb. They knew very well that Emo Qingyun was guarding this place to protect someone from receiving the inheritance. Previously, they were unable to enter because of Emo Qingyun's obstruction. Now they could not wait any longer. Otherwise, if the inheritance was taken away by someone else, their efforts would be in vain. Especially to Situcheng, as a member of the Merman clan, the sorcerer ancestor's inheritance was too valuable to him. Imperial Seal Killer Spirit Eyes. Heavenly Sun Star Piercing Eyes. Seeing Shenchuli and Situcheng's actions, Emo Qingyun's expression turned cold and he attacked them. Under Emo Qingyun's attack, Situcheng and Shenchuli's footsteps were immediately stopped. Seeing Emo Qingyun's actions, ZK and the others' expressions changed. Shock surfaced on their faces. They did not expect Emo Qingyun to still guard the sorcerer clan's ancestral tomb under such circumstances. Such perseverance was truly hard to come by. Both of you, stop right there. Seeing Situcheng and Shenchuli's actions, ZK shouted coldly in displeasure. I'll make it clear now. As long as Emo Qingyun is still breathing, no one is allowed to enter the ancestral tomb. Great-grandfather. Ancestor. Hearing ZK's words, Situcheng and Shenchuli became anxious. They shot looks at Situcheng and Shintu Erzhan respectively. However, when Situcheng and Shintu Erzhan saw their actions, they said in unison, Emo Qingyun is a respectable enemy. To show his utmost respect, no one is allowed to enter the ancestral tomb before he dies. Seeing ZK and the others' attitudes, everyone's emotions were complicated. They admired Emo Qingyun even more. Chapter 2034. Thanks. Seeing ZK and the others' actions, Emo Qingyun smiled faintly and nodded at ZK and the others. If ZK and the others had not stopped them and allowed Situcheng and Shenchuli to pass, all his previous efforts would have been in vain. ZK's emotions did not change in the slightest in the face of Emo Qingyun's gratitude. He said indifferently, I made them stop not to help you, but because this old man wants to see exactly how strong your endurance is. Boundary Breaker Ice Whirlpool Sword. As soon as ZK finished speaking, he waved his ice sword and slashed out rays of sword light toward Emo Qingyun. ZK's attack was extremely fast, and Emo Qingyun was seriously injured, so he could not dodge the sword light. Slash. Under ZK's sword, Emo Qingyun was immediately hit and his body was forced to retreat. However, this time, Emo Qingyun did not fall. It was probably because ZK had held back. He did not want to kill Emo Qingyun in one blow. He wanted to slowly torture Emo Qingyun so that Emo Qingyun would have no choice but to submit to him. Slash. 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 The ice whirlpool sword light slammed into Emo Qingyun's body and spun rapidly, piercing through Emo Qingyun's body. After piercing through Emo Qingyun's body, the ice whirlpool sword light did not stop and tore apart Emo Qingyun's body bit by bit. Soon, Emo Qingyun's clothes were dyed red, and he looked a little miserable. Break. Under the attack of the ice whirlpool sword light, Emo Qingyun's expression was unyielding. He clenched his fists and roared towards the sky. Suddenly, a strong burst of saint energy burst out and dispersed the ice whirlpool sword light. After Emo Qingyun dispersed the ice whirlpool sword light, the aura that he exuded was obviously weakened. Seeing Emo Qingyun's performance, everyone knew that he was at the end of the line. With such a result, everyone was in no hurry to kill Emo Qingyun. They planned to slowly torture him. Hee, interesting. Let me play with you. Seeing Emo Qingyun's appearance, Shinto Erzhan sneered and raised his hand to point at Emo Qingyun. Under Shinto Ershan's finger, a terrifying flame energy gathered at his fingertip. Demonic bone-burning finger. Shinto Ershan's finger shot out and immediately turned into a ray of reddish-black flowing light, blasting onto Emo Qingyun's knee. Facing Shinto Ershan's attack, Emo Qingyun was similarly powerless to dodge. His left knee was directly shattered. With his left knee shattered, Emo Qingyun's left leg immediately went soft, and he wanted to kneel on the ground. Just as Emo Qingyun was about to kneel down, he gritted his teeth and used his saint power to protect his left leg, forcing himself to remain standing. When Emo Qingyun used his saint power to protect his left leg, a terrifying flame energy spread out from his left knee. This was Shinto Ershan's finger energy, burning the bones of Emo Qingyun's left leg. It had to be said that his finger was ruthless and domineering enough to make one feel that death was better than living. Emo Qingyun, how do you feel? Looking at Emo Qingyun, who was enduring the pain and unwilling to kneel, Shinto Erzhan asked with a sneer. Hearing Shinto Ershan's question, Emo Qingyun gritted his teeth and replied with an unyielding expression, I feel very good. It's as comfortable as a massage. I want to do it again. What a wretch. Hearing Emo Qingyun's words, Shinto Ershan's face turned cold, and his face twitched in anger. At this point, Emo Qingyun still dared to be stubborn. It was unforgivable. Then, with a wave of his finger, Shinto Erzhan blasted another finger at Emo Qingyun's right leg. His right knee was crippled again. Emo Qingyun's right leg went limp, and he almost fell down again. Satisfying. Using saint power to wrap his right leg to prevent himself from kneeling, Emo Qingyun showed an arrogant expression and said, Is this all you've got? What other moves do you have? Show them all. I'm waiting to enjoy it. You're courting death. Hearing Emo Qingyun's words, Situ Qin coldly shouted from the side, and a gust of saint power quickly gathered in his palm. This gust of saint power blasted out from Situ Qin's palm, and turned into black wolf shadows. 9 Serenity's sun-devouring demonic wolf palm. The black wolf shadows moved quickly, and in an instant, they crossed the sky and arrived in front of Emo Qingyun. Then, these black wolf shadows pounced on Emo Qingyun, and tore at Emo Qingyun in a frenzy. Under the biting of the black wolf shadows, Emo Qingyun was immediately seriously injured, and his flesh was badly mangled. However, Emo Qingyun still showed an unyielding expression, and his gaze was cold as he confronted ZK and the others. Seeing Emo Qingyun's action, Ding Zhao's expression immediately turned cold. His figure flashed, and he charged directly at Emo Qingyun, shouting, Emo Qingyun, you crippled my son. Today I'll make you pay with your life. Stop. Ding Zhao, stop, we haven't played enough. Don't be in a hurry to kill him, we can't let him go so easily. Seeing Ding Zhao's action, ZK and the others' faces darkened, and they reprimanded him. However, Ding Zhao did not pay attention to ZK and the others' words, and he punched out without hesitation. This was his best chance for revenge. If he missed it, he would not have another chance to attack Emo Qingyun. He could see that ZK valued Emo Qingyun very much, and he would definitely not let Emo Qingyun die. Emo Qingyun had the Heavenly Soul Demon tribe and the Genesis Creation bloodline, and his value to the Dark Demon tribe was too great. He was the source of the Dark Demon tribe's high-grade bloodline. As long as Emo Qingyun's life was spared, the younger generation of the Dark Demon tribe would be able to produce geniuses one after another. Heaven-trampling collapsing punch. Ding Zhao didn't hold back the moment he made his move. He directly used his full strength and punched at Emo Qingyun's head. Suddenly, a terrifying surge of saint power madly gathered, and rapidly formed a whirlpool of fist shadows. Boom! Ding Zhao's fist hit Emo Qingyun's head, and immediately there was a loud explosion. After being hit by Ding Zhao's punch, Emo Qingyun's body trembled, and a terrifying force wave was generated under his feet. Under the impact of this force wave, the ground under Emo Qingyun's feet was immediately shaken into a large pit. When the large pit appeared, a mysterious force suddenly erupted from Emo Qingyun's head. In the blink of an eye, a stone door with an ancient aura flew out from Emo Qingyun's head. This was the original body of the light door martial soul, and also the gate of fortune. Emo Qingyun's head flew out from the gate of fortune, and it blocked Ding Zhao's punch, preventing Emo Qingyun's sea of consciousness from being destroyed. Crack, crack, crack. However, after the gate of destinies blocked Ding Zhao's attack, it began to shatter rapidly. In the blink of an eye, the gate of fortune was torn into pieces, and it returned to Emo Qingyun's body. That's the gate of fortune. The gate of fortune is indeed in his body. Seeing the gate of fortune appear, ZK's expression immediately changed to one of surprise. As soon as ZK finished speaking, his figure moved, and he quickly flew toward Emo Qingyun. The gate of fortune is in Emo Qingyun's body. We must capture Emo Qingyun. I didn't expect the gate of fortune to reappear after disappearing for so many years. Old man ZK, Emo Qingyun is mine. Don't even think about taking him away. Humph! You can't stop me with just the few of you. Seeing the gate of fortune in Emo Qingyun's body, ZK and the others immediately attacked, wanting to capture Emo Qingyun. As ZK and the others attacked, the rest of the people from the four forces also joined in the battle. For a moment, the scene was chaotic, but no one paid any attention to Emo Qingyun. Seeing such a scene, Emo Qingyun's expression was slightly stunned. He did not expect this to happen. While Emo Qingyun was still in shock, a terrifying wave of saint energy suddenly came from the ancestral tomb. The inheritance is complete. Sensing the wave of saint energy, Emo Qingyun's expression immediately brightened, and he became excited. Although he had paid a great price, he had finally fulfilled his promise. Seeing that he had fulfilled his promise, Emo Qingyun separated from the witchcraft remnant thought and removed the state of fusion. At this moment, the witchcraft remnant thought's aura was weak, and its body was transparent like moonlight. It seemed that in the fusion earlier, it had used up too much of its saint energy, and it was completely exhausted. Boy, leave with the little girl immediately. I'll cover the two of you. After separating from Emo Qingyun, the witchcraft remnant thought told Emo Qingyun what to do. A gratified smile appeared on its face, and it said, "That little girl has good taste. She made the best choice in her life by acknowledging you as her master." Although the sorcerer's remnant had merged with Emo Qingyun, he had seen everything that had happened earlier clearly. Emo Qingyun's actions earlier had won its respect once again. It knew that it could not have done that. Hearing the witchcraft remnant thought's words, Emo Qingyun did not hesitate. He turned around and flew into the ancestral tomb. Emo Qingyun's figure flashed, and he flew 1,000 meters away, disappearing in front of everyone's eyes. Quick! Stop! Emo Qingyun is escaping. Damn it, I really can't let my guard down against that boy. He really can't be underestimated. Stop fighting, let's kill Emo Qingyun first. Chase, he can't escape. There's no exit in the ancestral tomb. ZK and the others exchanged a few words, and they reached a consensus and chased into the ancestral tomb. Seeing ZK and the others' actions, the witchcraft remnant thought came up to them and said proudly, "Little girl, this is all I can do for you. It's up to you to keep your lives. I'll use my life in exchange for the eternal existence of the Merfolk clan." Ah! The witchcraft remnant thought laughed loudly, and its body exploded, bursting out a terrifying storm of saint energy. Although the witchcraft remnant thought was just a remnant thought, Its strength was comparable to the Mastery Saint stage. Its self-destruction was not to be underestimated. Faced with the self-destruction of the witchcraft remnant thought, ZK and the others paused, and their footsteps were stopped. When ZK and the others stopped, Emo Qingyun entered the ancestral tomb and saw the King Devourer who had completed the inheritance. At this moment, the King Devourer's cultivation had reached the peak of the intermediate saint stage. His eyes were wet as he looked at Emo Qingyun. Although she had just received the inheritance, she had sensed everything that had happened in the ancestral tomb. Emo Qingyun had suffered such serious injuries because of her. She was only Emo Qingyun's servant. Master, looking at Emo Qingyun in front of him, the King Devourer's eyes glowed, and he could not control his emotions. Peak of the intermediate saint stage, very good. Looking at the excited King Devourer, Emo Qingyun raised his hand to interrupt her and said, "Don't say anything unnecessary now. Let's kill our way out of here while I can still hold on." Chapter 2035. After listening to Emo Qingyun's instructions, the King Devourer nodded with a cold expression on his face. He looked like he was about to start a massacre. After instructing the King Devourer, Emo Qingyun turned around and led the King Devourer out. There are many cultivation resources in the ancestral tomb's treasury. We can't just waste them. Let's go and take those cultivation resources first. After Emo Qingyun finished speaking, he rushed towards the ancestral tomb's treasury and prepared to take everything away. Collect. After arriving at the ancestral tomb's treasury, Emo Qingyun did not waste any time and immediately began to collect the treasures. In a short while, the entire treasury was emptied. Nothing was left behind. Let's go. Emo Qingyun's expression turned serious. He nodded at the King Devourer and prepared to leave the Shaman faction's ancestral tomb. Emo Qingyun and the King Devourer did not go far before their path was blocked. ZK and the rest blocked their path. Emo Qingyun was not surprised by the arrival of ZK and the rest. His expression did not change at all. Emo Qingyun, you won't be able to escape. Just surrender. This is a mermaid? So the reason you guarded the Shaman faction's ancestral tomb was because of this mermaid. I didn't expect there to be a surviving mermaid on the wasteland continent. There are so many things that have surprised me today. This mermaid is quite beautiful. No wonder you're willing to fight to the death for her. She's indeed a hero's grave. Looking at the King Devourer in front of them, ZK and the rest sneered and mocked Emo Qingyun and the King Devourer. Seeing ZK and the rest's stance, Emo Qingyun's expression turned serious. He raised his hand and took out the tiger soul. He said, "Let's not talk nonsense. Let's fight. Leave these two to me." Hearing Emo Qingyun's words, the King Devourer's face turned cold. He raised his hand and pointed at ZK and Situcheng. Swallowing Ice Mystic Devour, King Devourer made a grabbing motion in the air, and the sky suddenly changed color, and a huge vortex of ice appeared. When this ice vortex appeared, ZK and Situcheng's expressions immediately changed. Their faces twitched continuously. From the looks of it, the two of them seemed to be in great pain. They were being restrained by the King Devourer's secret technique. ZK and Situcheng screamed miserably as clumps of blood with threatening aura flew out of their bodies. Seeing this scene, the surrounding Situcheng and the others all revealed shocked expressions. They could not believe that King Devourer was able to severely injure a powerhouse of ZK's level with just a wave of his hand. Soon, the merfolk blood in ZK and Situcheng's bodies was forcibly extracted by the King Devourer. Puff puff, their mermaid blood was forcefully sucked out. They coughed out blood and their faces turned as pale as paper. At the same time, their auras also rapidly weakened. The bloodline of the merman race is not so easily obtained. After extracting the merfolk blood from Situcheng and ZK, the King Devourer's face revealed a chilling expression. He said coldly, You have disturbed me from receiving my inheritance. Today, I will devour all of you and turn you into elixirs to increase my cultivation. Merfolk Rising Dragon Swallowing Roar. As soon as the King Devourer finished speaking, she raised her head and roared angrily. A terrifying bloodline power erupted from her body. This bloodline power was almost comparable to Emo Qingyun's Heavenly Soul Demon bloodline. It could cause the blood of those with higher bloodlines to shrivel up. Let's go. After the merfolk blood was forcibly extracted by the King Devourer, ZK's face was filled with pain. He turned around and fled unwillingly. His merfolk bloodline had been forcibly extracted, and it had already damaged his foundation. He had to find a place to heal. In addition, when he thought of Emo Qingyun's various methods, he knew that there was no way to capture Emo Qingyun. In this way, if he continued to stay and fight, he might cause his subordinates to suffer heavy losses. This was not an outcome he wanted to see. Compared to ZK's situation, Shintu Erzhan and the others were in a better state. They were not completely restrained by the King Devourer. After all, they did not plant the merfolk bloodline. They were not controlled by the King Devourer. ZK, you didn't expect this day to come, did you? It's really satisfying to see ZK in such a wretched state. This merfolk is very strong, and Emo Qingyun is helping from the side. We must not be careless. That's right. We must not underestimate Emo Qingyun. Otherwise we will definitely fall at his hands. Watching the fleeing divine ancestor ZK, Shintu Erzhan and the others made fun of him. Their expressions turned solemn. They had crossed swords with Emo Qingyun time and time again. They had suffered at the hands of Emo Qingyun this time. This was a lesson they would never forget. If they underestimated Emo Qingyun, they would definitely pay a heavy price for their actions. The Fusion Gate. Looking at the people from the three major factions in front of him, Emo Qingyun did not dare to hold back. He immediately fused with the King Devourer. Soon, the two of them were enveloped by two cracked light doors. Enveloped by the cracked doors of light, Emo Qingyun and the King Devourer began to fuse. Soon, they became one. Then, Emo Qingyun's aura rapidly increased. However, Emo Qingyun was helpless. Since the gates of creation had been shattered, the fusion gate had become stable. The gates of creation are too damaged. The fusion gate's power has been greatly reduced. I'm afraid it cannot be maintained for long. Sensing his own situation, Emo Qingyun's heart sank. His gaze instantly became fierce. If nothing unexpected happens, the fusion gate can only be maintained for 100 breaths of time. I must kill my way out of the encirclement of the three major factions before the fusion gate loses its effect. Kill! Emo Qingyun roared angrily. His figure turned into a stream of light, and a terrifying flame erupted from his body. Some of the ordinary saint stage powerhouses were shocked by the power of the flames. A few saints who were seriously injured even spat out blood under the impact of the fire of civilization. Ghost Shadow Slash. Emo Qingyun's figure flashed and arrived in front of Shintu Erzhan. He slashed down at Shintu Erzhan. He was the strongest among them. As long as he was crippled, the situation would become much more optimistic. When Emo Qingyun slashed out with his saber, his body split into 7 and attacked Shintu Air Mountain from different directions. Facing Emo Qingyun's attack, Shintu Ershan's expression turned solemn. A trace of fear flashed in his eyes. Earlier, when Emo Qingyun used this move against ZK, he had seen it very clearly. This remarkable power was very powerful. If they were at the same level, he would definitely not be able to block it. Thinking of this, ZK no longer hesitated and immediately used all his strength to block it. Mad Demon Raging Dragon Thousand Saint Fists. Seeing Emo Qingyun's attack, Shintu Ershan's fists waved wildly. In the blink of an eye, he had blasted out nearly 1,000 punches. When Shintu Erzhan was waving his fists, the 7 figures of Emo Qingyun were also waving Tiger Soul wildly. facing Emo Qingyun's attack. More than half of Shinto Urshan's fist shadows were destroyed in the blink of an eye. After destroying more than half of Shinto Urshan's fist shadows, Emo Qingyun's expression turned cold. A chilling glint flashed in his eyes as he said, "Shinto Erzhan, you crippled my legs just now. Now I'll chop off your arms as a return gift." When Emo Qingyun finished speaking, he quickly waved Tiger Soul and slashed at Shinto Urshan's shoulders. Shinto Urshan's arms were instantly chopped off by Tiger Soul's domineering attack. "Ah, my arms!" Shinto Erzhan screamed as his arms were chopped off by Emo Qingyun. His face immediately turned pale. As his face turned pale, a hint of panic appeared on his face. He was ultimately inferior to Z Quebec facing Emo Qingyun's attack. He simply did not have the power to resist. After gaining the upper hand with one strike, Emo Qingyun did not intend to continue fighting. His figure moved and turned into an afterimage as he fled far away. After him. Seeing Emo Qingyun flee far away, Situ Qing's expression turned cold. He immediately chased after Emo Qingyun. Seeing the Madman League's people give chase, Ding Zhao and the rest hesitated for a moment before they also gave chase. "Patriarch Erzhan, should we give chase?" Looking at the Madman League and the Anti-Immortal Alliance, the Immortal Slaying Hall's people had heavy expressions as they asked Shinto Erzhan for his opinion. Shinto Erzhan had a complicated expression on his face when he heard the question from the person beside him. He looked at Emo Qingyun's back and muttered to himself, "Forget it. This kid's rise is too fierce. We can no longer suppress him. Let him be." Hearing Shinto Urshan's words, the surrounding people fell silent. They could not refute Shinto Urshan's words. Although they were very unwilling to accept it, they had to admit that no one could suppress Emo Qingyun's growth. While everyone was having mixed feelings, Shenshili's expression was cold. A strong sense of unwillingness rose in his heart. He could not accept that he was being suppressed by a nameless kid after he had just taken over a body to recultivate. Emo Qingyun had already become his inner demon. If he did not get rid of Emo Qingyun, it would affect his future cultivation. While the Immortal Slaying Hall's people were having mixed feelings, Shinto Erzhan had a rueful expression. He sighed and said, "If you meet Emo Qingyun again in the future, try not to clash with him. If he asks you to submit to him, don't resist. Submitting to him is not a bad thing." Hearing Shinto Urshan's words, everyone's mood became even heavier. Shinto Erzhan had admitted defeat. After Shinto Erzhan finished speaking, he silently flew forward. It was as if he had aged a lot in an instant, giving off a very lonely feeling. When Shinto Erzhan and the rest left, Emo Qingyun's fusion time was up. Following that, Emo Qingyun separated from the King Devourer. His face was a little pale. In the previous battle, he had already suffered extremely heavy injuries. After going through a fierce battle just now, his mind was already exhausted to the extreme, and his body was at its limit. When Emo Qingyun separated from the King Devourer, the people from the Madman League and the Anti-Immortal Alliance caught up to him. "Emo Qingyun, the current you can't even borrow strength. Let's see how you resist. Why don't you continue to flee? I shall see how long you can continue to flee. Since you have exhausted all your abilities, don't blame me for being impolite. Emo Qingyun, your only chance of survival is to obediently submit to us." Situ Qing and the rest caught up with sneers on their faces. It was as if victory was in their hands. Chapter 2036. Let's go. As soon as Emo Qingyun finished speaking, he did not waste any more words with Situ Qing and the others. He immediately turned around and prepared to flee. Seeing that Emo Qingyun and King Devourer were about to leave, Situ Qing and the others were shocked and immediately chased after Emo Qingyun. Seeing Situ Qing and the others chasing after him, the corners of Emo Qingyun's lips curled up slightly, and a hint of mockery flashed in his eyes. "Fortune Mainland, crash for me!" Emo Qingyun bellowed. He took out the fortune mainland and slammed it towards Situ Ching and the others. Situ Ching and the others' expressions changed when they saw the fortune mainland slamming into them. Caught off guard, they were hit head-on. Bang bang bang, a series of loud bangs rang out. Under the fortune mainland's impact, Situ Ching and the others were sent flying, each of them suffering heavy injuries. Some of the more seriously injured, and those with lower cultivation, had their souls destroyed under the fortune mainland's impact. Damn brat, he actually hid this card, we were tricked by him again. What kind of magic treasure was that just now? How could it be so powerful? When that magic treasure hit me, I felt like I was hit by a mainland, and my soul was knocked out of my body. That's a mainland, I can't believe he actually refined a mainland into a magic treasure. This brat is too monstrous, I really don't know what he can't do. After being hit by the fortune mainland, Shintu Urshan's expression turned cold, and fear towards Mo Qingyun rose in his heart. Mo Qingyun still had such a terrifying trump card at this time, it was beyond their expectations. At this moment, they couldn't help but fear that Mo Qingyun still had other powerful cards up his sleeve. It couldn't be helped, once bitten by a snake, twice shy. Under Mo Qingyun's attack, a shadow had formed in their hearts, and they could no longer face Mo Qingyun with a calm heart. Puff! When the fortune mainland collided with Situ Ching and the others, Mo Qingyun also received a strong backlash, causing him to vomit a mouthful of blood. Shintu Urshan and the others were all Sage Realm experts. Even if they were caught off guard and injured, their counterattack was still very terrifying. Seeing Mo Qingyun's appearance, the King Devourer asked anxiously, "Master, how are you? I won't die. Let's go." Hearing King Devourer's words, Mo Qingyun shook his head and kept the fortune mainland into his body. After receiving Mo Qingyun's hint, King Devourer did not dare to hesitate and immediately left with Mo Qingyun. In the blink of an eye, Mo Qingyun and Huang Xiaolong had fled thousands of miles away, disappearing from the eyes of Shintu Urshan and the others. Shintu Urshan and the others hesitated as they watched Mo Qingyun and Yi Shiwen flee into the distance. They hesitated as to whether they should continue chasing after them. In the end, Shintu Urshan and the others gave up and did not pursue Mo Qingyun. They could not guarantee whether Mo Qingyun had other tricks up his sleeve. They did not dare to take this risk, because the price was too high, so high that they could not bear it. I didn't expect that kid to escape in this kind of situation. Watching Mo Qingyun's retreating figure, Ding Zhao showed an unwilling expression, and his face became as gloomy as ink. He had thought that Mo Qingyun was dead for sure today, but in the end, there was still an unforeseen event. That kid's luck is great, and his talent is hard to come by. His rise is inevitable. Hearing Ding Zhao's angry words, Danting sighed with emotion, and couldn't help sighing. He was very clear that Mo Qingyun's foundation would rise to another level after this life and death experience. The next time, if they wanted to force Mo Qingyun into this kind of situation, the difficulty would be many times higher. Let's go. Looking in the direction that Mo Qingyun had disappeared, everyone sighed and did not continue to stay here. It could be said that this confrontation had ended with their complete defeat. Although Mo Qingyun had suffered serious injuries, with Mo Qingyun's Genesis bloodline, this kind of injury could not harm his foundation. By the time everyone left, King Devourer had already fled millions of miles away with Mo Qingyun. "Master, where are we going now?" After fleeing far away with Mo Qingyun, the heaven-devouring mermaid monarch revealed a nervous expression and asked Mo Qingyun about his plans. Hearing King Devourer's question, Mo Qingyun pondered for a moment before replying, "You've just completed your inheritance, and your cultivation is not very stable yet. You need to cultivate to stabilize your cultivation. Leave the matter of traveling to others." Mo Qingyun said to King Devourer, then summoned Udihai and Gu Yang, saying, "Martial uncle, you and Udihai will take me to Master's residence. I want to ask him to refine a cauldron of pills for me. Qingyun, you're seriously injured? Master, how are you? Seeing Mo Qingyun's appearance, Gu Yang and Yu Dihai were shocked and hurriedly asked with concern for Mo Qingyun. Ever since they had met Mo Qingyun, this was the first time they had seen Mo Qingyun so seriously injured. They could almost imagine how terrifying the strength of the enemy Mo Qingyun was facing this time was. It's nothing serious. Mo Qingyun shook his head and gave the two of them a comforting smile, saying, I need to recuperate and cultivate immediately. As for traveling, I'll leave it to you two. As soon as Mo Qingyun finished speaking, he took out the flying boat and handed it over to Gu Yang and Gu Yang. Now that he had a lot of experts by his side, he didn't have to worry about using the flying boat openly. After settling everything, Mo Qingyun sent King Devourer into his soul palace and returned to the Fortune mainland to recuperate. Seeing that Mo Qingyun had returned to the Fortune mainland, Gu Yang and Yu Dihai no longer hesitated and immediately drove the flying boat. The rest of the time was spent hurriedly on the road. In the blink of an eye, half a month had passed. Master, we've arrived at Senior Pill Devil's residence. Outside the Pill Devil's cultivation dwelling, Yu Dihai sent a voice transmission to Mo Qingyun, reporting their journey. Hearing Yu Dihai's words, Mo Qingyun withdrew from his cultivation and said with a solemn expression, My injuries this time are too serious. Even after cultivating for so long, I've only just managed to suppress them. I'm afraid it will take a long time for me to fully recover. The fortune gate was shattered by Ding Zhao, and there are no signs of recovery. This is a troublesome matter. Sensing his own condition, Mo Qingyun's heart sank. His injuries this time were too serious. Mo Qingyun pondered for a moment, then decided not to dwell on it. In a flicker, he left the Fortune mainland. Let's go in. Outside the Pill Devil's cultivation dwelling, Mo Qingyun said to Gu Yang and Yu Dihai, then walked into the Pill Devil's cultivation dwelling. Before long, Mo Qingyun, Gu Yang, and Yu Dihai entered the Pill Devil's cultivation dwelling. Shua. Before Mo Qingyun, Yu Dihai, and Yu Dihai could enter the Pill Devil's cultivation dwelling, a black figure appeared in front of them. It was the Pill Devil. Master. Senior Pill Devil. Seeing the Pill Devil's arrival, Mo Qingyun, Yu Dihai, and Yu Dihai saluted. Qingyun, you're still alive? Seeing Mo Qingyun in front of him, the Pill Devil was shocked, unable to believe his eyes. He had never imagined that Mo Qingyun was still alive. This news came as a great surprise to him. Hearing the Pill Devil's question, Mo Qingyun nodded and said, Disciple hid the fact that I'm still alive from Master due to some unspeakable reasons. Disciple has caused Master to worry about me, please punish me. Smelly brat, don't be so polite with me, let Master take a look at your injuries. Hearing Mo Qingyun's words, the Pill Devil pretended to be unhappy and glared at him. Then, he started to care about Mo Qingyun's injuries. With the Pill Devil's eyesight, he could naturally see that Mo Qingyun's injuries were very serious. Hearing the Pill Devil's words, Mo Qingyun did not argue and allowed the Pill Devil to check his injuries. He thought that perhaps with the help of the Pill Devil, his injuries would recover a little faster. After all, for an existence like the Pill Devil, his eyesight and skills were not something that he could compare to. After helping Mo Qingyun to the side, the Pill Devil started to check on Mo Qingyun's injuries. He could not help but frown. Obviously, he had found out that Mo Qingyun's injuries were more serious than he had imagined. Because of the absolute beginning creation bloodline, your physical injuries are basically no longer a problem. After finding out about Mo Qingyun's injuries, the Pill Devil nodded slightly. Then, his expression turned serious and he said, However, the gate of creation is broken and the fragments have seeped into your body and merged with your body. This is the most troublesome thing and it could affect your future cultivation. Hearing the Pill Devil's words, Mo Qingyun nodded. He knew about this situation. However, he had no way to separate the fragments of the gate of creation from his body. Thinking of this, Emo Qingyun looked expectant and asked, "Master, do you have a way to separate the fragments of the gate of creation?" "No." The pill devil shook his head and his attitude was very decisive. He probably had no way. The pill devil said again, "Now, you can only pray that the fragments of the gate of creation will not affect your cultivation." Hearing the pill devil's words, Emo Qingyun sighed and his mood calmed down. If it was a blessing, it would not be a curse. If it was a curse, it could not be avoided. Since it was already like this, there was no point in thinking too much. It was better to let nature take its course. Seeing Emo Qingyun's expression, the pill devil nodded his head in appreciation. He was very satisfied with Emo Qingyun's performance. In terms of state of mind, Emo Qingyun's state of mind was far superior to people of the same age. Even many experts who had reincarnated and cultivated again were not as free and easy in terms of state of mind as Emo Qingyun. "Master, I have come to find you this time because I have a request." After exchanging a few words with the pill devil, Emo Qingyun did not beat around the bush and directly stated his purpose. "I have found the elixir formula for the 9-day nirvana creation elixir and I have gathered all the ingredients needed to refine the elixir. I would like to ask you to help me refine a cauldron of 9-day nirvana creation elixir." "Oh!" Hearing Emo Qingyun's words, the pill devil was shocked. He was surprised by Emo Qingyun's words. He knew how difficult it was to find the elixir formula for the 9-day nirvana creation elixir. He did not expect Emo Qingyun to find it. The pill demon was slightly surprised, but he didn't refuse. He said in a deep voice, "Give me the pill recipe and the materials. I'll refine the pills for you now. As for the rest of you, you can find a place to stay." Chapter 2037. After Pill Devil took the pill refining materials, he left to refine the 9 days nirvana fortune pill. Seeing that Pill Devil had left to refine the pill, Emo Qingyun did not want to waste any more time. He turned to look at Gu Yang and Gu Yang asking, "Since Master is going to refine the pill, I need to start recuperating. Are you two going back to Fortune Mainland? Or are you staying here?" "Let's return to Fortune Mainland." Hearing Emo Qingyun's question, Gu Yang and Gu Yang answered without hesitation. They did not plan to stay in Pill Devil's residence. Knowing what the two of them were thinking, Emo Qingyun sent them to the Fortune Mainland without any hesitation. After sending Gu Yang and Gu Yang off, Emo Qingyun found a small courtyard in Pill Devil's cultivation dwelling and stayed there. He was worried that if he also entered the Fortune Mainland, the Pill Devil wouldn't be able to find him when he finished refining the pills. Therefore, it was better for him to stay in Pill Devil's residence to recuperate. The trip to the Shaman faction's ancestral tomb was too dangerous. I almost lost my life there. Recalling the experience in the Shaman faction's ancestral tomb, Emo Qingyun felt a lingering fear in his heart, but at the same time, a sense of relief rose in his heart. If the King Devourer's inheritance had ended a little later, the situation would have been completely different. They might have really been killed. Thinking of the dangerous experience this time, Emo Qingyun's thoughts began to change. All along, the Emo family and Qingyun Palace's people were safe on Fortune Mainland. But now it seemed that this was not the case. Emo Qingyun dared not guarantee that he could turn misfortune into fortune every time he encountered such a situation. More importantly, under Ding Zhao's attack, the Gate of Destinies had already shattered. Without the Gate of Fortune's support, his battle power would fall by a lot, and his ability to protect himself would be greatly reduced. With my current strength, I can't ignore all forces. It's still too dangerous for everyone to follow me. Emo Qingyun thought about it for a moment and came up with a plan. He knew what to do next. Now that I've subdued Ud Hai and the others, their combined strength is comparable to a first-rate force. Under normal circumstances, It won't be a problem to protect everyone. Once I recover from my injuries, I will move the immortal palace of creation to the wasteland continent and build a mountain gate there. After thinking about his future plans, Emo Qingyun discarded the distracting thoughts in his mind and sighed, "Forget it, the most important thing now is to recover from my injuries as soon as possible." Emo Qingyun tossed aside the distracting thoughts in his mind and immersed himself in cultivation, beginning to recover from his injuries. Just as the Pill Devil had said, the most important thing now was not the injuries on his body, but the fragment of the immortal gate of fortune that had fused into his body. After observing his body's condition, Emo Qingyun began to try to remove the fragment of the immortal gate of fortune from his body. But to his surprise, the more he tried to remove the fragment of the immortal gate of fortune, the more it merged with his body. Some of the small fragments of the immortal gate of creation actually dissolved into liquid under his forceful stripping and became one with his blood. Seeing this situation, Emo Qingyun was completely dumbfounded. He was completely at a loss for what to do with the fragment of the immortal gate of fortune. It seems that it's impossible to remove the fragment of the immortal gate of fortune. After a series of attempts, Emo Qingyun felt relieved and gave up on removing the fragment of the immortal gate of fortune. He knew very well that with his current strength, it was impossible to remove the fragment of the immortal gate of fortune. Ignoring the fragment of the immortal gate of fortune, Emo Qingyun activated the absolute beginning bloodline to heal some of the injuries on his body. Following this, time passed little by little as Emo Qingyun cultivated. In the blink of an eye, 10 days had passed. After 10 days of cultivation, the remaining injuries on his body were completely healed. Seeing that the injuries on his body were completely healed, Emo Qingyun smiled faintly and said, "The surface injuries are basically healed. As for the fragment of the immortal gate of fortune, it seems that I can only leave it to fate. I hope it won't have any negative impact on my cultivation. Since my injuries have healed, I should go out and take a look. Master should have finished refining the Nirvana elixir of fortune." Thinking that the Pill Devil had refined the Nirvana elixir of fortune, Emo Qingyun was a little excited and quickly walked out of the room. Not long after Emo Qingyun left the room, he arrived at the Pill Devil's residence and saw the Pill Devil sipping tea. Looking at the Pill Devil's appearance, he seemed to be in a good mood, probably because he knew that Emo Qingyun was still alive. "Brat, your injuries have healed." Looking at the approaching Emo Qingyun, the Pill Devil casually greeted him and poured a cup of tea for Emo Qingyun. Hearing the Pill Devil's concerned question, Emo Qingyun nodded and said, "The surface injuries have healed, but the fragment of the Gate of Fortune is still unable to be removed. Furthermore, it has fused even more closely with my body. It seems that it is impossible to remove it." The Pill Devil seemed to have expected Emo Qingyun's situation and did not show any signs of surprise. "The Gate of Fortune is incomparably mysterious. Even I can't see through it. You don't have to think too much about it." The Pill Devil comforted Emo Qingyun and said, "In my opinion, it's not necessarily a bad thing for the fragment of the Gate of Fortune to dissolve into your body. From another point of view, it means that the immortal Gate of Fortune has acknowledged you." After hearing the Pill Devil's words, Emo Qingyun could not deny it and nodded in agreement with the Pill Devil's words. One had to know that the Gate of Fortune was of an extremely high grade. It was not an easy task to fuse with it. Not to mention fusing with it, even refining it would be extremely difficult. Seeing that Emo Qingyun's expression had improved, the Pill Devil revealed a look of anticipation. He looked at Emo Qingyun and smiled faintly. "Perhaps this is an opportunity for you to make a great leap and allow him to undergo another metamorphosis." "I hope so." Emo Qingyun's face was calm. He did not dare to have too much hope in the situation that the Pill Devil had described. The chances of that happening were too slim. He could only hope that the fragment of the gate of fortune that had fused with his body would not affect his future cultivation. After exchanging a few pleasantries with the Pill Devil, Mo Qingyun sat down and took a sip of the tea that the Pill Devil had poured for him. Once the tea entered his mouth, a mysterious refreshing feeling rushed into his sea of consciousness. Following that, he entered a mysterious state, and his consciousness instantly became much clearer. As Mo Qingyun entered this state, his previously exhausted state of mind was restored to its peak. After a while, Mo Qingyun withdrew from that state and a look of joy appeared on his face. He said, "Good tea. I did not expect that just one sip would restore my exhausted state of mind to its peak. This tea is called the Great River Green Rain Spiritual Nourishing Tea. There are only 3 trees in the entire wasteland continent, and half a caddy of tea leaves can be harvested every 100,000 years." Hearing Mo Qingyun's words, the Pill Devil briefly introduced the tea leaves and smiled proudly. He said, "Now these 3 tea trees are all in my hands. If you like, you can take some back to drink. It will help your state of mind." "Thank you, Master." Mo Qingyun did not stand on ceremony with the Pill Devil's action and accepted it without hesitation. After accepting the tea from the Pill Devil, Mo Qingyun's heart suddenly moved and he quickly took out a few wine jars. He said, "Master, this is the Dragon Turtle Fairy Brew that I got a few days ago. Have a taste." "Dragon Turtle Fairy Brew? This is good stuff." Seeing Mo Qingyun take out the Dragon Turtle Fairy Brew, the Pill Devil's eyes lit up and his face was filled with surprise and anticipation. Obviously, he had heard of the Dragon Turtle Fairy Brew, or rather, had drunk it before. Well, not bad. Although the taste is lighter than before, it can still be considered a top-grade brew. After drinking a mouthful of the Dragon Turtle Fairy Brew, the Pill Devil praised with a curious expression. He said, "Kid, if I remember correctly, the Dragon Turtle Fairy Brew should only be sold in the Dark Wasteland domain. Did you go there?" "Yes." Hearing the Pill Devil's question, Mo Qingyun did not hide anything and nodded honestly. Seeing Mo Qingyun's reaction, the Pill Devil's face became even more curious. He quickly said, "It seems that you have had a lot of encounters recently. Tell me briefly." "All right." Under the Pill Devil's gaze, Mo Qingyun roughly described his recent experiences to the Pill Devil. Hearing Mo Qingyun's experience, the Pill Devil's expression immediately became serious and his heart was hanging in suspense. Mo Qingyun's experiences during this period of time were truly too dangerous, far exceeding his expectations. In his opinion, Mo Qingyun should have encountered some danger since he was so severely injured. However, he did not expect that Mo Qingyun would encounter ZK again and be besieged by the 4 major forces. "I really did not expect that you would be able to fight your way out under such circumstances." After hearing Mo Qingyun's words, the Pill Devil could not help but sigh. He revealed a gratified expression and said, "Although ZK is powerful, among the super experts of the wild continent, he can't even enter the top 100. In the future, when you go out to train, you have to be extremely careful." "I understand." Mo Qingyun nodded and made a mental note in his heart. What a joke! After this experience, how would he dare to be careless? He was sure that if he encountered the top 100 experts mentioned by the Pill Devil, he would be in real danger this time. In addition, the reason why he could survive this time was related to ZK's mercy. If ZK did not want to recruit him and wanted to kill him from the start, he would definitely be dead. All in all, the reason why he could survive this time was because of luck. If it happened again, the situation would not be like this. "Oh right, I have successfully refined the 9-day Nirvana creation elixir that you asked me to refine." After a simple conversation with Mo Qingyun, the Pill Devil took out a golden bottle and handed it to Mo Qingyun. Looking at the golden bottle that the Pill Devil handed over, Mo Qingyun's expression immediately became serious and he became nervous. Chapter 2038. Master, disciple will take his leave first. After chatting with the Pill Devil for a while, Mo Qingyun did not stay any longer and bid farewell to the Pill Devil. The Pill Devil did not stop Mo Qingyun from leaving. He nodded and waved at Mo Qingyun, saying, "Go, if you need Master's help, come and find Master anytime." The Pill Devil was very clear that Mo Qingyun had obtained the Nirvana elixir of creation and was probably in a hurry to save people. If that was the case, he naturally could not keep Mo Qingyun any longer. Mo Qingyun nodded and turned to leave the courtyard. After leaving the Pill Devil's residence, Mo Qingyun returned to his own residence and entered the Fortune mainland in a flash. After entering the Fortune mainland, Mo Qingyun went to Qian Linglong's residence, preparing to use the Nirvana elixir of creation to save her. When he arrived at Qian Linglong's residence, Mo Qingyun found that the situation of the few women was the same as before. However, Mo Qingyun did not care about this. As long as the few women's situation was stable, it was fine. After all, the Nirvana elixir of creation had been refined. As long as Qian Linglong consumed it, everything would be fine. Looking at the few women who were getting closer and closer to him, Mo Qingyun's heart beat faster and faster. He had worked so hard for so long for this moment, and now it had finally arrived. Walking in front of Qian Linglong, Mo Qingyun carefully fed her the Nirvana elixir of creation. After Qian Linglong consumed the Nirvana elixir of creation, a mysterious power exuded from her body. Looking at Qian Linglong's situation, Mo Qingyun's expression immediately tensed up, and his fists unconsciously clenched. At this moment, the degree of anxiety in his heart was stronger than ZK and the others. This should be the so-called too much concern leads to chaos that everyone talked about. Boom! Suddenly, a ball of terrifying flame exploded on Qian Linglong's body, quickly burning her body to ashes. Seeing this scene, Mo Qingyun's expression immediately changed, and his heart hung in the air. He wanted to pounce on Qian Linglong. Linglong, whoosh! Just as Mo Qingyun was feeling nervous, a small flaming phoenix flew out of Qian Linglong's body. Looking at this flaming phoenix, Mo Qingyun's expression softened a little, and he let out a deep breath. He could sense Qian Linglong's aura from the flaming phoenix, which meant that Qian Linglong was fine. The current situation should be due to the effect of the medicinal pill. The small flame phoenix flew out of Qian Linglong's body and flew towards Long Hanyan, Han Wenyu and Murong Qinyu. In the blink of an eye, the bodies of Long Hanyan, Han Wenyu and Murong Qinyu were burned into a pile of ashes. When the three women's bodies were burned to ashes, three small flaming phoenixes flew out from their bodies. Whoosh, 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 the bodies of the girls turned into flaming phoenixes. They broke out of the hut and flew into the sky, quickly gathering together. Looking at the flaming phoenixes flying out of the hut, Mo Qingyun quickly followed them, worried that someone would disturb them. When Mo Qingyun caught up with the flaming phoenixes, they had already merged into one, turning into a huge flaming phoenix. When this huge flaming phoenix was formed, many small flaming phoenixes passed through the space and quickly gathered together. Immediately, the flaming phoenix's aura began to skyrocket. In the blink of an eye, it had more than doubled. Seeing this situation, Mo Qingyun's expression became even more nervous, and his whole heart hung in the air. The current situation had already exceeded his expectations, and it was no longer within his control. The only thing he could do now was to wait silently, and hope that there would not be any mistakes. Time passed little by little. As the small flaming phoenixes gathered together, the huge flaming phoenix began to grow bigger and bigger. After an unknown amount of time, the small flaming phoenixes no longer appeared, and the huge flaming phoenix's aura also stabilized. Slowly, the huge flaming phoenix's body began to change, and slowly, it became a human shape. When the flaming phoenix transformed into a human shape, a terrifying immortal spiritual power also gathered towards her at an extremely fast speed. With the support of a large amount of immortal spiritual power, the flaming phoenix that had transformed into a human shape slowly began to condense a body of flesh and blood. After a while, a familiar delicate face appeared before Emo Qingyun's eyes. Linglong, Han Yen, Qinyu, Wenyu? Looking at the familiar face, Emo Qingyun could not help but be stunned, and did not know how to address her. The flaming phoenixes that the four women had transformed into had completely merged into one, and it was already impossible to distinguish who was who. In desperation, Emo Qingyun could only wait silently for her body to completely condense. Several hours later, her body was completely condensed, and she came before Emo Qingyun. With an excited expression, she said with a smile, "Qingyun, thank you. Are you Linglong now, Han Yen, Qinyu, or Wenyu?" Looking at the familiar beauty in front of him, Emo Qingyun had a nervous expression on his face as he carefully asked her. Emo Qingyun could not help but worry about his gains and losses. He did not know who she should be. Hearing Emo Qingyun's question, the beautiful woman in front of him could not help but fall silent. Seeing the other party's reaction, Emo Qingyun's expression became even more nervous, and some sweat seeped out of his palms. "Qingyun, my current situation is a little complicated, and I don't know how to explain it to you." Under Emo Qingyun's nervous gaze, the other party's expression was serious and nervous. She first hinted to Emo Qingyun and then said, "To be exact, I am Qian Linglong now. In an instant just now, all of my clones merged with my original body. The clones merged with the original body, which means that Han Yen and the others have also merged." Hearing Qian Linglong's words, Emo Qingyun's body could not help but tremble, as if he had been struck by lightning. Emo Qingyun muttered to himself. He then revealed an expectant look, and looked at Qian Linglong and said, "Linglong, Han Yen and the others are your clones. Do you have a way to restore them?" This, Qian Linglong fell silent. After a moment of silence, Qian Linglong revealed an apologetic expression and shook her head at Emo Qingyun. "Qingyun, I am really sorry about this. Even if I can refine my clones now, they will not be Han Yen and the others. They have already become a part of the original body." Thump, thump, thump. After hearing Qian Linglong's words, Emo Qingyun's body trembled, and he could not help but take a few steps back. "Han Yen and the others will not be able to come back. That means that I killed them with my own hands, and not even a trace of their souls was left." When Emo Qingyun thought of this, he suddenly felt depressed, as if he had lost his will to fight. Self-blame, longing, and reluctance instantly occupied his body and mind. "Qingyun, I can actually replace." Seeing Emo Qingyun's appearance, Qian Linglong revealed an apologetic expression and wanted to persuade Emo Qingyun. Before Qian Linglong could finish her words, Emo Qingyun interrupted her, and said with a hoarse voice, "Linglong, I am sorry. My emotions are a little messy now, and I can't listen to anything. Let me be alone for a while." Chapter 2039. Looking at Emo Qingyun's receding figure, Qian Linglong did not say anything. She felt an inexplicable pain in her heart. She didn't know when it started, but Emo Qingyun's position in her heart had reached an irreplaceable level. This change might have come from herself, or it might have come from Long Han Yen and the other girls. "Qingyun, if you ask, I can turn into anything you want." Looking at Emo Qingyun's receding figure, Qian Linglong whispered to herself. Her eyes were filled with tenderness. Because Emo Qingyun had walked too far away, Qian Linglong's words did not reach his ears. Of course, with Emo Qingyun's current mood, if he had heard those words, his heart would have been even heavier. After separating from Qian Linglong, Emo Qingyun aimlessly walked around the Fortune mainland. After a short while, Emo Qingyun arrived at a cliff and sat down with a lonely expression on his face. He vaguely remembered that when he was in the Great Yen dynasty, he and Long Han Yen had watched the sunrise like this. Thinking of his past with Long Han Yen, Emo Qingyun's mood became even heavier. These were all in the past. Emo Qingyun recalled some of his experiences with Long Hanyan, and some of his experiences with Murong Qinyu. Slowly, as Emo Qingyun's thoughts spun, some of his interactions with Han Wenyu also began to appear in his mind. The more he thought of these, the more sorrowful Emo Qingyun felt, and it was even harder for him to let go. Although the three girls were in a deep sleep, at least they were still in front of him, and he could still see them. But now, because of him, the three girls had completely disappeared from this world. This made it hard for him to forgive himself. He had indirectly harmed the three girls. While Emo Qingyun was thinking of the three girls, Qian Linglong's figure also appeared in his mind. Linglong, I'm sorry, I really can't let go. This change came too suddenly. Thinking of Qian Linglong in his mind, Emo Qingyun couldn't help but feel ashamed and apologetic. This was not Qian Linglong's fault. On the contrary, she was a victim. As such, Emo Qingyun's treatment of Qian Linglong was a little too much. As Emo Qingyun blamed himself, time passed very quickly. In the blink of an eye, Emo Qingyun had been sitting in front of the cliff for a whole month. Seeing that Emo Qingyun had not contacted her for a month, Qian Linglong came out to look for him, and also came to the cliff's edge. Looking at Emo Qingyun, who was sitting at the edge of the cliff, Qian Linglong slowly walked forward and quietly sat down beside Emo Qingyun. She said, "Yesterday I had a dream. In the dream, you and I were sitting at the edge of the cliff. My head was resting on your shoulder, and we were quietly watching the sun rise." As Qian Linglong spoke, she leaned her head slightly towards Emo Qingyun. She raised her jade-like hand and pointed to the horizon in the east. Hearing Qian Linglong's words, Emo Qingyun's expression changed. He couldn't help but turn his head to look at Qian Linglong. At this moment, he couldn't help but be stunned. He felt that Qian Linglong was Long Hanyan. He said in surprise, "Hanyan, is that you?" Hearing Emo Qingyun's words, a trace of grievance flashed across Qian Linglong's face. She smiled sweetly at Emo Qingyun and said, "Qingyun, actually, I've always been by your side. I just changed my name. Linglong is Hanyan, and Hanyan is Linglong." Hearing Qian Linglong's words, Emo Qingyun's consciousness cleared up a little. His gaze also unconsciously became unfamiliar. Seeing Emo Qingyun's reaction, a trace of disappointment flashed across Qian Linglong's eyes. It seemed that she still couldn't compare to Long Hanyan. After the slight disappointment, Qian Linglong calmed down and silently sat beside Emo Qingyun. Emo Qingyun didn't stop Qian Linglong's actions. He allowed her to sit beside him. "I'm sorry. Han Yen and the others' changes were too sudden. I can't get over it right away." Looking at Qian Linglong, who was sitting beside him, Emo Qingyun had an apologetic look on his face. He wanted to properly explain to her. Without waiting for Emo Qingyun to finish his words, Qian Linglong smiled sweetly and interrupted Emo Qingyun. She said, "Qingyun, you don't have to apologize to me. I can understand your feelings." "Thank you." Emo Qingyun nodded his head and thanked Qian Linglong. He didn't say anything else. With regards to Emo Qingyun's reaction, Qian Linglong was very understanding. She looked firmly at Emo Qingyun and said, "Don't worry. No matter how difficult it is to pry open your heart, I will definitely help you untie the knot in your heart. I will let you regroup and regain your faith." After Qian Linglong finished speaking, she stood up and gave Emo Qingyun a charming smile. She said, "After sitting with you for so long, I'm a little hungry. I'll go make some food. What do you want to eat?" "Anything." Emo Qingyun replied politely. Looking at Emo Qingyun's reaction, Qian Linglong smiled slyly and said, "You said it yourself. When the time comes, don't find an excuse to not eat the food I make." After Qian Linglong said those words, she immediately left and didn't give Emo Qingyun a chance to reply. Looking at Qian Linglong gradually walking away, Emo Qingyun's gaze became a little complicated. He didn't know how to face Qian Linglong. Sigh. Emo Qingyun sighed. After calming down the sadness in his heart, he half lay down on the edge of the cliff. Not long after, Qian Linglong came back with a food box. She walked to Emo Qingyun's side and sat down. Then, Qian Linglong took out all kinds of delicious dishes from the food box. Try it. Qian Linglong picked up a pair of chopsticks and handed it to Emo Qingyun. Looking at Qian Linglong's enthusiastic face, Emo Qingyun didn't say anything. He took the chopsticks and tasted the food. After tasting the food that Qian Linglong had made, Emo Qingyun nodded at Qian Linglong with praise in his eyes. Then, Emo Qingyun and Qian Linglong sat there and chatted while eating. Looking at Emo Qingyun's behavior, a smile appeared on Qian Linglong's face. She was very satisfied with the current atmosphere. After Emo Qingyun and Qian Linglong finished eating, Qian Linglong took the food box and left. She was very clear that it wasn't a matter of 1 or 2 days to untie Emo Qingyun's knot in his heart. She couldn't rush this kind of thing. She had to do it step by step. If she overreacted, it would be self-defeating. Most importantly, she enjoyed the atmosphere of being together with Emo Qingyun. Once Emo Qingyun untied the knot in his heart, he would definitely think of a way to avenge Long Hanyan and the other girls. When that time came, it would be an extravagant hope for her to get along with Emo Qingyun like this. After Qian Linglong left, Emo Qingyun continued to sit on the edge of the cliff, looking at the beautiful scenery aimlessly. The gate of fortune's fragment is fusing with my body even more. As Emo Qingyun sat aimlessly, he could clearly sense the situation in his body. As the gate of fortune's fragment fuses with my body, it seems to be gradually dissolving and slowly fusing with my flesh and blood. When he noticed the change in the gate of fortune's fragment, Emo Qingyun couldn't help but be surprised. However, he wasn't worried about it. Chapter 2040. Why should I care about this now? Don't tell me I still have to cultivate and increase my strength? When he realized what he was thinking, Emo Qingyun laughed at himself. He couldn't help but shake his head and say dejectedly, "So what if I increase my cultivation? Can I still save Han Yen and the others? This world is too big. The Saint Realm is just the beginning. It's impossible for me to cultivate to the extreme. Why should I waste my time? Ever since I was reborn, I've been controlled by hatred. What can I do in the end?" The more Emo Qingyun thought about it, the more dejected he became. The fighting spirit in his heart faded, and he began to muddle through. Instead of suffering, why don't I live one day at a time? At least this way I won't have too many worries. When this thought came to mind, Emo Qingyun discarded all distracting thoughts and fell back again. After he was reborn in this life, he cultivated with the belief of revenge. He swore to kill Li He and the other two with his blade. After killing Li He and the other two, he set his goal to bring back Long Hanyan. He cultivated crazily day and night. Who knew that when he had the ability to bring Long Hanyan away, because of his own mistake, Long Hanyan had completely left him. This huge psychological disparity caused his heart to die completely, causing him to lose the will to cultivate in an instant. Do I really have to muddle through my days like this? Emo Qingyun lay on the edge of the cliff and his mind wandered for a while. His gaze sharpened and his body emitted a murderous intent. No, I can't muddle through my days like this. I still have a lot of things to do. I still have to avenge Han Yen and the others. When this thought appeared, Emo Qingyun was motivated and his body regained its sharpness. However, just as Emo Qingyun's fighting spirit rose, it quickly dissipated. He stood up dejectedly and said self-deprecatingly, "Avenge? Even if I destroy the Ting bloodline and wipe out the Dark Devil race, so what? Can Han Yen and the others be revived?" After thinking about it, Emo Qingyun lay down on the edge of the cliff and looked at the sky in a daze. Time passed little by little and the sky slowly darkened. When the sun was about to set, Qian Linglong came over again with a box of food. She walked over with a peaceful smile. Eat something. Qian Linglong came to Emo Qingyun's side and took out the food. She smiled sweetly at Emo Qingyun. Seeing Qian Linglong's actions, Emo Qingyun didn't say anything. He sat and ate. Seeing Emo Qingyun's reaction, Huang Xiaolong picked up a small fish with a pair of chopsticks and placed it in Emo Qingyun's bowl, saying, "I didn't expect there to be frost snow cloud fish on the Fortune mainland. I caught a few back, try them and see if they are to your liking." Seeing Qian Linglong's actions, Emo Qingyun raised his head and looked at Qian Linglong with an apologetic expression. He said, "Linglong, you don't owe me anything. You don't have to treat me like this. Although I saved you indirectly, you don't have to serve me like this. If you want, I will say that I am happy." Hearing Emo Qingyun's words, Qian Linglong smiled sweetly and said, "Besides, I, Qian Linglong, am willing to serve someone just to repay their kindness. This is impossible." Hearing Qian Linglong's words, Emo Qingyun was silent. He didn't know what to say. Seeing that Emo Qingyun was silent, Qian Linglong didn't stop talking. Her pretty face gradually became serious. She said, "I don't care if you believe it or not. A long time ago, I, Qian Linglong, have decided that you are the one for me." Emo Qingyun was silent again. He didn't know how to face Qian Linglong. Qian Linglong's feelings were too passionate. Looking at the silent Emo Qingyun, Qian Linglong muttered to herself and said, "I don't care if you believe it or not. Right now, Long Hanyan, Murong Qinyu and Han Wenyu are all mine. There is no distinction between us anymore." Hearing Qian Linglong's words, Emo Qingyun unconsciously nodded. He couldn't deny Qian Linglong's words. In this period of time, he could always see the shadows of Long Hanyan and the other girls in Qian Linglong. Seeing that Emo Qingyun didn't refute, Qian Linglong's expression softened. She looked at Emo Qingyun with a gentle gaze and said, "In other words, Han Yen, Qinyu, and Wenyu haven't left you. They are just accompanying you in a different way. In the past, you couldn't face the four of us. Now that the four of us have become one, won't you have fewer worries?" Emo Qingyun's expression became confused. He couldn't deny that Qian Linglong's words made some sense. Seeing that her words had some effect, Emo Qingyun was no longer so depressed. Qian Linglong immediately became delighted. She took the opportunity to strike while the iron was hot and continued, "I believe that the man that I, Qian Linglong, fancy will definitely become an emperor that looks down on all living things. He won't be defeated by a small setback. Even if he was confused, dispirited, and depressed, I believe that he will be able to walk out of his predicament and regain his faith and grace. He will let everyone see him reach the peak step by step." After hearing Qian Linglong's words, Emo Qingyun immediately revealed an ashamed expression. He looked at Qian Linglong with a complicated gaze. He never thought that Qian Linglong would say such words to him. This really surprised him. Seeing that Emo Qingyun's state of mind changed again because of her words, Qian Linglong continued, "Think about it carefully. Actually, the reason for this situation wasn't because of you, Emo Qingyun. It was because of the third holy son of the dark demon race, Zi Yunxiao. If he didn't ambush me and severely injure me, how could Han Yen and the others be implicated? In addition, if Ting Chai of the heavenly soul demon race didn't chase after you, how could Han Yen and I be in such a bad situation?" "You don't have to say any more. I know what to do." Before Qian Linglong could finish speaking, Emo Qingyun raised his hand and interrupted her. He revealed a determined expression and said, "You are right. The people who caused Han Yen and the others to disappear were the dark demon race and the Ting family. Even if I want to continue being dispirited, I have to get rid of them first." "Yes." Seeing Emo Qingyun's performance, Qian Linglong's expression immediately became joyful and excited. From the current situation, although the old Emo Qingyun hadn't returned, at least he had regained his confidence. She was already very satisfied with this progress. She believed that if she had enough time, she would definitely help Mo Qingyun find himself again. Come and eat. After helping Mo Qingyun walk out of the knot in his heart, Qian Linglong had a happy smile on her face. She then picked up some food for Mo Qingyun. Mo Qingyun didn't reject Qian Linglong's actions. He chatted with her while eating. Linglong, now that you have recovered, what do you plan to do next? Plan? Qian Linglong was stunned. She only cared about enlightening Mo Qingyun and didn't think about anything else. Qian Linglong pondered for a while and knew what to do. She said in a deep voice, "What I plan to do next is naturally to regain control of the 1,000 illusions. However, with my current strength, I'm afraid I don't have the ability to do so." Chapter 2041. We can't rush this matter. We need to think about it at length. After knowing Qian Linglong's thoughts, Mo Qingyun expressed his opinion and comforted Qian Linglong. After I resolve the hidden danger of the Gate of Fortune fragment, I will follow you to the 1,000 illusions and help you regain control of the 1,000 illusions. Okay. Hearing Mo Qingyun's words, Qian Linglong's face immediately lit up and she nodded at Mo Qingyun. In her opinion, Mo Qingyun's words meant that he had regained his fighting spirit and resolved the knot in his heart. Seeing that Mo Qingyun had resolved the knot in his heart, Qian Linglong's heart was filled with joy. She chatted with Mo Qingyun as they ate. About 2 hours later, after Mo Qingyun and Qian Linglong finished eating, Qian Linglong cleaned up the dishes and left with the food box. Seeing that Qian Linglong had left, Mo Qingyun was no longer dispirited and immediately entered into cultivation. Although he had no way to resolve the hidden danger of the Gate of Fortune fragment, he could still cultivate. Only when he entered into cultivation could he observe the effects of the Gate of Fortune fragment on his cultivation. Soon, piles of medicinal crystals with astonishing spiritual energy were placed beside Mo Qingyun. After placing the medicinal crystals, Mo Qingyun instinctively operated the Gate of Fortune and planned to use the Gate of Devouring to refine the medicinal crystals. However, he quickly revealed a bitter smile and couldn't help but sigh. I'm not used to suddenly losing the Gate of Fortune. While Mo Qingyun was sighing in his heart, his expression tensed up as he suddenly realized something was wrong. He thought to himself, although I'm not used to losing the Gate of Fortune, this indirectly proves that my dependence on the Gate of Fortune has reached a very strong level. It turned out that unknowingly, he had already become dependent on the Gate of Fortune and neglected his own abilities. If the Gate of Fortune hadn't been destroyed, he wouldn't have found out about this hidden danger easily. Even during normal cultivation, he was used to using the Gate of Fortune. If this continued for a long time, the consequences would be unimaginable. In the future, once he lost the Gate of Fortune, he would become useless. It seems that Master's words are not without reason. This is a blessing in disguise. Mo Qingyun sighed. He felt relieved and no longer worried about losing the Gate of Fortune. As Mo Qingyun began to cultivate, he skillfully operated the Xianqing scripture and guided the immortal's spiritual energy. Under Mo Qingyun's refinement and absorption, wisps of dark green spiritual energy was extracted from the medicinal crystals. Medicinal spiritual power flew out of the medicinal crystal and rapidly converged towards Mo Qingyun like rivers flowing into the sea. Mai's TS is actually 5 times faster than before. Mo Qingyun was shocked to discover that his refining speed had skyrocketed. He found it hard to believe. This change was too big. It wasn't something that could be done by a mere increase in cultivation. There must be other reasons. Could it be that because the fragment of the Gate of Good Fortune fused with my body, it changed my physique? Mo Qingyun's brain spun and quickly thought of a possibility. This was the only explanation. After thinking about this, Mo Qingyun's lips curled into a faint smile. He muttered to himself, "It seems like the Gate of Fortune's fragment is not a bad thing after all." Emo Qingyun smiled faintly as he muttered to himself. He stopped thinking about it and let nature take its course. After all, he couldn't stop this from happening. There was no point in thinking too much about it. He might as well leave it to fate. However, based on the current situation, the situation wasn't as bad as he thought. Emo Qingyun collected himself and used all his energy to refine the medicinal crystals around his body. He wanted to see what the limit of his refining speed was. 6 times. After Emo Qingyun's test, he had a clear idea of the limit of his refining speed. After that, Emo Qingyun stopped thinking about it and immersed himself in his cultivation. Time passed by slowly as Emo Qingyun cultivated. While Emo Qingyun was cultivating, Qian Linglong came by a few times to prepare some food and wine for Emo Qingyun. However, when Qian Linglong saw that Emo Qingyun was cultivating, she didn't disturb Emo Qingyun. A few days later, Qian Linglong came to the cliff again. Emo Qingyun was still immersed in his cultivation and didn't know that Qian Linglong had come. Seeing Emo Qingyun's performance, the Qianling dragon horse revealed a happy expression and became a little excited. The man she had been waiting for had finally returned. Seeing that Emo Qingyun had returned, Qian Linglong's expression changed and a determined look appeared on her face. She said, "Since Qingyun is busy cultivating and doesn't have the time to manage the Palace of Fortune, I'll take care of it for him." She had already learned about Emo Qingyun's Fortune Immortal Palace on the Fortune mainland some time ago. With this thought, Qian Linglong didn't stay any longer and rushed to the Palace of Fortune. According to the location that Emo Qingyun had told her, Qian Linglong soon arrived at the Palace of Fortune and walked in. Coincidentally, when Qian Linglong arrived at the Palace of Fortune, Qi Lian had just returned. "Mistress!" Qi Lian's eyes widened when he saw Qian Linglong walking towards the Palace of Fortune. He thought that his eyes were playing tricks on him. In the Great Yin Dynasty, he had seen Long Hanyan a few times and knew how Long Hanyan looked like. Now that he saw Qian Linglong, his first reaction was that Long Hanyan had recovered from her injuries. After Qi Lian finished speaking, he flew to Qian Linglong's side and bowed to her. He said, "Your subordinate, Qi Lian, welcomes the arrival of Mistress." Qi Lian? Looking at the red-haired old man in front of her, Qian Linglong frowned and recalled the information about Qi Lian. Soon, Qian Linglong remembered Qi Lian and knew his identity. "Mr. Qi, there's no need to be so polite." After learning about the relationship between Qi Lian and Emo Qingyun, Qian Linglong smiled kindly and waved her hand at Qi Lian. She said, "Qingyun has been busy with work and can't manage the Fortune Immortal sect. I'm here today to see if there's anything I can help with." Upon hearing Qian Linglong's words, Qi Lian immediately understood what she was thinking. Then, Qi Lian reported the situation of the Fortune Immortal sect to Qian Linglong. After listening to Qi Lian's explanation, Qian Linglong had a clear understanding of the Fortune Immortal sect. "I didn't expect there to be almost 10 Saint Realm experts in the Fortune Immortal sect." After understanding the strength of the Fortune Immortal sect, Qian Linglong was shocked and admired Emo Qingyun even more. Emo Qingyun was the first person in the Wasteland continent to be able to subdue so many Saint Realm experts with his Tai mysterious Immortal Realm cultivation. More importantly, according to Qi Lian, many of these people were reborn. Chapter 2042. Qian Linglong was even more curious about the Creation Celestial sect now that she knew about them. After a while, Qian Linglong entered the Creation Celestial sect with Qi Lian leading the way. Qian Linglong's arrival immediately attracted the attention of many people, causing them to be shocked. Some people from the Long family and the Emo family were very familiar with Long Hanyan and remembered Long Hanyan's face. Therefore, when they saw Qian Linglong, their reaction was the same as Qi Lian's. They mistook Qian Linglong for Long Hanyan. "Quick, look, Han Yen is here!" And Han Yen, Have you recovered from your injuries? Little sister Han Yan, why are you the only one here? Didn't Qing Yun accompany you? Greetings, mistress. Everyone had different reactions when they saw Qian Linglong approaching. They all greeted Qian Linglong. Qian Linglong was slightly stunned when she saw everyone's actions. She did not know how to respond. Although she had Long Hanyan's memories, it was still a little difficult for her to recognize everyone immediately. When Qi Lian saw Qian Linglong's hesitation, he immediately walked out to resolve the awkwardness in front of Qian Linglong. He said, "Everyone, although this is my mistress, she is not Han Yan. She is Mistress Han Yan's original body, Mistress Linglong." Qian Linglong had already told Qi Lian her true identity when they were on the way here. Therefore, Qi Lian already knew that she was not Long Han Yan. Linglong? Han Yan's original body? Everyone was stunned when they heard Qi Lian's words. They knew Qian Linglong's identity. They had heard about the relationship between Long Han Yan and Qian Linglong from Mo Qingyun more than once. When they knew that the person in front of them was not Long Han Yan, some people from the Long family and the Mo family were disappointed. In their opinion, only Qian Linglong had come alone. Long Hanyan's injuries were probably not healed yet. Seeing everyone's reaction, Qian Linglong immediately guessed what they were thinking. She smiled faintly and comforted them. "Everyone, although I was Han Yan's original body in the past, I am now her, and she is now me. We are already part of each other." Hearing Long Hanyan's words, everyone was puzzled. They did not understand what she meant. Qian Linglong didn't pay much attention to the confused faces of the crowd and continued to speak according to her own thoughts. "Long Yuxing, I remember that when you were 9 years old, you would always get scolded while practicing martial arts. I was the one who helped you resolve it. Mo Yun, the first time I went to the Mo clan, you seem to have encouraged a large group of people to come and see me. Royal Heaven Bro, I was the one who kept watch for you when you escaped from the Long family. Senior Sister Wuyo, I remember that every time you were scolded, you would hide at my place." Looking at some familiar faces in front of her, Qian Linglong recounted some of their stories without missing a single detail. The way Qian Linglong spoke was almost exactly the same as Long Han Yan. Even her charm was not inferior. If they did not know beforehand that the person in front of them was Qian Linglong, they would have thought that she was Long Han Yan. Seeing Qian Linglong's actions, everyone's attitude towards her immediately became much more intimate. At the same time, the disappointment in their hearts was swept away. Linglong is Han Yan's original body. They are originally one and the same. Why are you all tangled up in this? That's right. Qing Yun still has a few clones. Do we also have to be one and the same? What are you all doing? Han Yan is Qing Yun's wife. Isn't Linglong also his wife? Didn't you hear? Just now, Mr. Qi and Mr. He both addressed Linglong as their mother. Hello, Auntie Linglong. Hello, Auntie Linglong. In an instant, everyone's grudges were resolved and their attitudes changed drastically. Seeing the change in everyone's attitude, Qian Linglong smiled brightly. She was very satisfied with the situation. From the looks of it, everyone's acceptance of her was much faster than she had expected. All right, let's not crowd around here. Quickly invite Linglong to stay in the inner palace. Everyone chatted with Qian Linglong for a while. Moxian walked in front of Qian Linglong and pulled her into the inner palace. Seeing Moxian's action, Qian Linglong did not refuse and followed Moxian into the inner palace. Mistress, please take a seat. After leading Qian Linglong into the inner palace, Gong Pingyang and the rest bowed respectfully to Qian Linglong. Seeing Gong Pingyang and the rest's actions, Qian Linglong hesitated for a while before walking to the highest seat in the inner palace and sitting down. Everyone, I'm here today mainly to see if there's anything I can help with. Qian Linglong sat down at the highest seat in the main palace. She did not beat around the bush and immediately explained her intentions. Hearing Qian Linglong's words, Gong Pingyang and the rest began to discuss what they could ask for Qian Linglong's help. No matter what, Qian Linglong was a Saint Realm expert. If she was willing to help, she would be of great help. After a round of discussion, Yudihai walked out from the crowd and bowed to Qian Linglong. He said, "Mistress, the immortal palace of fortune lacks female saints. In terms of guiding female disciples in cultivation, there are certain flaws and shortcomings. If Mistress is willing to help, you will be able to solve this problem. Leave it to me." Hearing Yudihai's words, Qian Linglong did not hesitate to take on the task. She glanced at the crowd and asked everyone, "If there's anything else, you can say it all together. If it's something I can do, I will do my best to help you." At this moment, Qian Linglong had the demeanor of a mistress. She communicated with everyone in an orderly manner. However, thinking about it, Qian Linglong was a noble saintess in the 1,000 illusions. She had this aura and ability. Hearing Qian Linglong's question, Yudihai and the rest began to discuss again to see if there was anything else Qian Linglong could help with. At this moment, while Qian Linglong was discussing with everyone, Mo Qingyun came out from his cultivation. After a period of cultivation, his cultivation had improved significantly. He was very close to the Daoqing stage. Based on the current speed, I will be able to break through to the Daoqing stage in at most 3 months. Mo Qingyun thought for a moment. He had a clear understanding of his cultivation situation. However, when he thought of the fragments of the Gate of Destinies in his body, his brows furrowed again. During this period of time, the fragments of the Gate of Destinies have merged even faster. It's most likely impossible to separate them out. Forget it, my body's situation is still unclear. I'll continue to cultivate. Mo Qingyun muttered to himself. He shook his head and discarded the distracting thoughts in his mind. He once again immersed himself in cultivation. He was not too worried about the development of the immortal palace of fortune. He believed in the ability of Dihai and the others. Moreover, the immortal palace of fortune was in no danger on the Fortune mainland. Chapter 2043. Outside the ancestral tomb of the shaman faction, a group of people rushed over in a hurry. Each of them had a nervous expression on their faces as they quietly entered the ancestral tomb. If Mo Qingyun was here, he would recognize the leader. It was ZK who had escaped first that day. Divine Ancestor, it's been so long. Mo Qingyun and the others must have left long ago. Why are we still here? Divine Ancestor, your injuries have just stabilized. You should return to the main clan immediately and plant a new bloodline. Yes. If we delay for too long, it will affect the effect of the bloodline. Everyone followed behind ZK with a worried expression on their faces as they tried to persuade ZK to stay calm. Ever since ZK had recovered from his injuries a few days ago, he had rushed here without stopping. ZK didn't say a word about his purpose for coming here, causing everyone to feel helpless. ZK was a super expert of the Dark Devil tribe. Even the slightest mishap would be a great loss to the Dark Devil tribe. Plant a new bloodline? ZK sneered when he heard the people behind him. Can't you see that I came here in a hurry to find a new bloodline? Find a new bloodline? The crowd looked at each other in confusion. They didn't understand what ZK was talking about. ZK shook his head when he saw the crowd's reaction. The smile on his face deepened. What kind of bloodline is more powerful than the Genesis bloodline on the Wasteland continent? Everyone's eyes lit up when they heard ZK's words. They knew what he was talking about. Mo Qingyun lost a lot of blood in the previous battle. So that's why the Divine Ancestor is here. The Divine Ancestor is wise. If you plant Mo Qingyun's bloodline, your strength will definitely increase by leaps and bounds. In that case, we'll congratulate you in advance for reaching the peak of the immortal Tao on the Wasteland continent. After understanding ZK's intentions, everyone revealed pleasantly surprised expressions and congratulated ZK one after another. A smug smile appeared on ZK's face when he heard everyone's words. He sneered and said, "I've planted the Genesis bloodline, and my strength has increased by 30%. At that time, even if I encounter a Saint Stage Great Perfection expert, I'll still be able to fight back. When your strength increases, Mo Qinyun won't be able to escape the next time you meet him. If Mo Qinyun knows that the Divine Ancestor's strength will increase in a short period of time because of his bloodline, he'll be so angry that he'll vomit blood. In my opinion, this is the best gift for Mo Qinyun the next time you see him. After hearing what you said, I'm looking forward to meeting Mo Qinyun the next time." As soon as they entered the ancestral tomb of the Sorcerer clan, the Wasteland Divine Ancestor of the Wasteland Ruins. After the previous battle, the Wasteland continent had been in the wasteland. ZK and the others tensed up when they saw the scene in front of them. They were worried that the blood would be scattered by the aftermath of the battle. With solemn expressions, ZK and the others entered the ancestral tomb and carefully sensed the aura of the blood. As they went deeper into the ancestral tomb, ZK's expression became more serious. He was clearly worried that the blood would be scattered. Not long after, ZK saw a puddle of purplish-black blood and a smile appeared on his face. He had found Mo Qinyun's blood. This puddle of dried blood was left behind by Mo Qinyun that day. Collect. ZK looked at the puddle of blood with a nervous expression and carefully took out a jade bottle. Soon, the pool of purplish-black blood was collected by ZK into a bottle. Congratulations, Divine Ancestor. You've successfully obtained Mo Qinyun's blood. Your strength will soar soon. Divine Ancestor is wise. From now on, your cultivation talent will reach the peak of the Wasteland continent. At that time, under the Divine Ancestor's leadership, our clan will be invincible. Seeing that ZK had collected the blood, the people from the Dark Demon clan immediately congratulated ZQuebec. Hearing everyone's congratulations, a faint smile appeared on ZK's lip. He continued, Mo Qinyun was seriously injured that day and lost a lot of blood. There should be some of it scattered elsewhere. Let's search carefully. After ZK finished speaking, his expression tensed up again and he continued to search for Mo Qinyun's blood. Seeing ZK's actions, the others did not dare to delay and immediately followed ZK to search. It wasn't long before ZK and the others really found some blood under their search. Seeing that they had found some blood, ZK and the others became even more enthusiastic and worked even harder to search for blood. After a few hours, ZK and the others stopped and did not continue to search for Mo Qinyun's blood. Although it's still not a lot, the amount that I've collected so far is barely enough for me to plant it. Looking at the blood he had collected, a smile appeared on ZK's face. He was very satisfied with his harvest this time. After collecting all the blood, ZK sneered and said proudly, Mo Qinyun, when this old man sees you again, I will definitely thank you properly. Let's return to the clan. Seeing that he had achieved his goal, ZK no longer hesitated and led everyone back to the clan. Under ZK's command, no one dared to stay any longer and left with ZQuebec on the Fortune mainland. Mo Qinyun, who had been cultivating all this time, once again withdrew from his cultivation. A pondering expression appeared on his face as he said, Based on the current situation, I only need 2 months to break through to the Daoqing realm. After cultivating for so long, it's time to go out and take a look. Otherwise, Master will be worried if he can't find me. After calculating the time he had to cultivate, Mo Qinyun stopped cultivating and stood up from the cliff. Then, in a flicker, Mo Qinyun left the Fortune mainland. After leaving the Fortune mainland, Mo Qinyun walked out of his room and headed to the Pill Devil's residence. A short while later, Mo Qinyun arrived at the Pill Devil's residence and saw an anxious Pill Devil. Qinyun, you're here, it's great. Seeing Mo Qinyun's arrival, The pill devil's face lit up and he immediately pulled Emochinyon over. Master was in a hurry to find you. There is something I need to discuss with you. Master, why are you looking for me? Looking at the nervous pill devil, Emochinyon was puzzled and looked curiously at the pill devil. In his impression, the pill devil had always been calm and composed. He shouldn't be acting like this. Just now, I received news that ZK has obtained your blood and is preparing to plant it in his body. Under Emochinyon's gaze, the pill devil furrowed his brows tightly. He briefly explained the situation and said, with ZK's great strength, if he plants your blood, his strength will increase by at least 30%. This will be extremely bad for you. After listening to the pill devil's words, Emochinyon's expression became solemn. This was indeed not good news. Chapter 2044. What do you think about this? Seeing that Emochinyon was silent, the pill demon looked worried and asked Emochinyon again. Emochinyon frowned slightly at the pill demon's question. He pondered for a while and said, since the blood has already been obtained by ZK, there is no point in worrying now. Let it be. After experiencing the previous despair and dejection, Emochinyon's current state of mind were on a higher level than before. His attitude towards everything had become more carefree and natural, and he took everything lightly. To him, what could be more frightening than the despair of a person's heart? As long as a person still had hope in his heart, there would be a turning point in any situation. There would be a moment of light at the end of the tunnel. The crisis he was facing now was nothing compared to the death of his heart. You are very open-minded. Seeing Emochinyon's reaction, the pill demon was surprised and nodded at Emochinyon in admiration. He had originally thought that Emochinyon would be very flustered when he heard the news. However, it was the opposite. Emochinyon was much calmer than him when he heard the news. This showed that Emochinyon's state of mind was extraordinary and the difference between his state of mind and that of ordinary people. Seeing Emochinyon's reaction, the pill demon was relieved. He looked at Emochinyon curiously and said, in that case, what are your plans? You can't just sit around and wait for death. I don't have any good plans for now. I will cultivate and raise my cultivation level while observing the fragment of the gate of creation. In response to the pill demon's question, Emochinyon briefly explained some of his thoughts and said, when I understand the situation of the fragment of the gate of creation, I might create a force to fight against the dark demon race. Your plan is very good. Now that the situation is unclear, the best choice is to wait and see. Hearing Emochinyon's words, the pill demon nodded in agreement and said, also, you don't have to worry too much. It won't be easy for ZK to successfully plant the bloodline. He won't have time to trouble you in the short term. You can slowly think of a way to deal with him. Okay. After hearing the pill demon's words, Emochinyon nodded calmly. He had some confidence in his heart. Next, Emochinyon chatted with the pill demon and asked about the current situation of the wild continent. After hearing Emochinyon's questions, the pill demon recounted the recent situation of the wild continent to Emo. Recently, the dark demon race had made a big move and destroyed almost 100 forces in the dark domain. Apart from forces like the Mad Immortal Union and the Immortal Slaying Hall, most of the forces were powerless in front of the dark devil race and could only be slaughtered. Some forces had no choice but to submit to the dark demon race in order to temporarily prolong their feeble existence. From the looks of it, the dark demon race's comeback this time is truly unstoppable. After hearing the pill demon's words, Emochinyon couldn't help but sigh. However, he wasn't too relieved. To him, even if the sky fell, there was still someone tall to hold it up. Firstly, he didn't have any forces, and secondly, he didn't have anything to worry about. What he needed to do now was to understand the situation of the fragment of the gate of creation and think of a way to increase his own strength. As for the matter of establishing the immortal gate of creation, he didn't need to worry about it now. It wouldn't be too late to take it slowly after he dealt with the hidden dangers of the fragment of the Gate of Creation. After chatting with the Pill Demon for a while, Mo Qingyun got up and bid farewell to the Pill Demon. Qingyun, your injuries haven't completely healed. Now that the wild continent is in chaos, I think it's better for you to stay here. Knowing that Mo Qingyun wanted to leave his cave, the Pill Demon showed a worried expression and urged Mo Qingyun to stay. Hearing the Pill Demon's urging, Mo Qingyun immediately shook his head and replied, "With the Dark Demon race's strength, if they really want to capture me, I won't be absolutely safe even if I hide here." Hearing Mo Qingyun's words, the Pill Demon couldn't help but fall silent. He couldn't refute Mo Qingyun. There was no other way. Last time in the Alchemist's Temple, even if he helped, he still couldn't stop Quebec. However, ZK wasn't the strongest in the Dark Demon race. In this way, once the super experts of the Dark Demon race arrived, he really couldn't protect Mo Qingyun. Thinking of this, the Pill Demon didn't continue to urge him to stay. He only warned with a tense expression, "You have the Genesis bloodline in your body. To the Dark Demon race, it's a huge attraction. They will definitely think of ways to capture you. You mustn't let your guard down." Disciple understands. Hearing the Pill Demon's warning, Mo Qingyun nodded. He also understood this point. Looking at Mo Qingyun's performance, the Pill Demon nodded and said, "In addition, now that you've lost the Gate of Fortune, your battle strength and life-saving means have been greatly reduced. You mustn't take risks like last time." Thinking of Mo Qingyun's experience in the Shaman faction's ancestral tomb, the Pill Demon still had lingering fears. That kind of situation was really too dangerous. If the time had been a little different, Mo Qingyun and the others would have been buried there. There wouldn't have been any suspense in escaping. Disciple understands. I will be very careful in everything I do. Mo Qingyun was touched by the Pill Demon's repeated reminders, and immediately nodded in agreement. Subsequently, under the Pill Demon's repeated reminders, Mo Qingyun left the Pill Demon's cultivation dwelling. Mo Qingyun left the Pill Demon's cultivation dwelling because the Pill Demon couldn't protect him, and he didn't want to bring danger to the Pill Demon. More importantly, it wasn't convenient for him to cultivate in seclusion for a long time in the Pill Demon's cultivation dwelling. Therefore, in order to hide in the Fortune mainland, leaving the Pill Demon's cultivation dwelling was the best choice. Where is the best place to go? Coming out from the Pill Demon's cultivation dwelling, Mo Qingyun was thinking about where he should go next. Mo Qingyun's mind spun, and he thought of a place to go. He could take a stroll around the Alchemist's Temple. Facing ZK and the others' invasion, the Alchemist's Temple's people had all moved away. Now only an empty shell was left. When he arrived at the Alchemist's Temple, he could renovate the Alchemist's Temple, and perhaps use it as the Fortune Immortal Gate's main entrance. Moreover, there was a sacred medicine valley inside the Alchemist's Temple's main entrance. With this thought in mind, Mo Qingyun no longer hesitated and immediately set off for the Alchemist's Temple. In order to save time, Mo Qingyun took out the Divine Arc Clan's flying boat and steered it towards the Alchemist's Temple. The Alchemist's Temple was not very far from the Pill Demon's cultivation dwelling. Mo Qingyun arrived in 3 days. Just as Mo Qingyun had expected, the Sacred Hall of Alchemists was still deserted, with only a few scattered people wandering around. Presumably, they came here to try their luck and see if they could gain something. Chapter 2045. Entering the Alchemist's Temple, Mo Qingyun ignored the others and walked into a quiet courtyard. Mo Qingyun walked into the small courtyard. His eyes scanned the surroundings, then he took out several materials to set up an array formation. He didn't want people to come over from time to time and turn the place upside down while he was cultivating. Although he would enter the Fortune mainland when he was cultivating, he would still come out for a walk. He didn't want to see the small courtyard he lived in turn into a wasteland when he came out. Therefore, it was necessary to set up an array formation here to prevent people from coming over from time to time. Under Mo Qingyun's hands, runes appeared one after another and were skillfully engraved on the array formation materials. After engraving runes on the array formation materials, Mo Qingyun threw them to every corner of the small courtyard. Before long, every corner of the small courtyard was filled with array foundations. After completing the array foundations, Mo Qingyun's hands did not stop as he continued to engrave runes on the array foundations. Under the guidance of the array runes, the array foundations gradually reacted and emitted waves of array force. Several hours later, Mo Qingyun stopped his hand movements. With his attainments as a Saint Array Master, setting up an array formation was very fast. Rise! Seeing that the array formation was completed, Mo Qingyun formed a hand seal and struck it into the array formation. Very quickly, a sharp fluctuation of formation energy erupted in the small courtyard. The array formation had been activated by Mo Qingyun. Judging from the momentum of this array formation, although it had not reached Saint grade, it was not far from it. As long as there is no Saint Array Master, with the mysteries of this array formation, it would be hard for ordinary people to break it. Looking at the array formation he had set up, Mo Qingyun's lips curved into a faint smile. In a flicker, his figure disappeared from sight. Since the array formation was completed, it was time for him to go cultivate. Back on the Fortune mainland, Mo Qingyun did not go to the cliff. Instead, he pondered, when my cultivation breaks through, I will definitely need to practice my divine ability, so I can't go to that cliff anymore. Mo Qingyun was very clear that with the power of his divine ability, ordinary places would not be able to withstand it. Forget it, I'll go there. Mo Qingyun pondered for a moment and came up with a plan. He came to a gray space. This was the place where his primordial spirit cultivated, the most mysterious place on the Fortune mainland. When he had practiced his divine ability in the past, he had also practiced it here, allowing him to use his divine ability without any worries. Standing in front of the gray space, Mo Qingyun did not think too much and immediately immersed himself in his cultivation. While Mo Qingyun was cultivating, a large group of people had gathered outside the small courtyard where he had set up the array formation. Strange, I've been here before, I didn't see any array formations here. Could it be that an expert came here and set up an array formation? Could it be that someone accidentally triggered some hidden restriction, causing this array formation to activate? We can't rule out this possibility. Is there an array master here? Please come out and take a look at this array formation. I'm here to take a look, but I'm only a grade 6 array master. I hope I can be of some help. After a round of discussion, a white-haired old man slowly walked to the front of the small courtyard. When they saw the white-haired old man, everyone was filled with anticipation, hoping that the old man would be able to break the array formation. Not long after, the white-haired old man shook his head and said helplessly, "The grade of this array formation is too high. Although it's not a saint array, it's not far from it. It's not something I can break." Hearing the white-haired old man's words, everyone was shocked. Some were surprised by the grade of the array formation. If one wanted to use brute force to break a quasi-saint array, one would need to be a true saint expert. It was definitely not something they could do. They were all rogue cultivators, and their cultivation was very low. Many of them were only at the Grand Unity Mystic Immortal Realm. Even the strongest among them was only at the 3rd or 4th Heaven Mystic Immortal Realm. It was impossible for them to break the array formation. When they thought of this, some of them were dejected and were unwilling to stay any longer. The grade of this array formation is too high. The person who set it up is definitely not simple. We'd better not offend him. That's right. If this expert has a bad temper and we disturb him, we'll be in trouble. Forget it, I'd better leave first. I don't want to get into trouble before I get to eat the mutton. A bunch of cowards. The higher the grade of the array formation, the more treasures there are in it. It's good to let them get lost. After the array formation is broken, we'll have fewer competitors. At this moment, the people outside Mo Qingyun's courtyard were divided into two groups. Those who were afraid of disturbing Mo Qingyun turned around and left. They were unwilling to stay and risk their lives. As for those who were greedy, they still stayed, thinking about how to break the array formation and get the treasures. Although a portion of the people had left, because some people stayed behind, it attracted even more people. Gradually, more and more people gathered outside Mo Qingyun's courtyard and tried to break the array formation. In their opinion, with so many people gathered here, they must have found a rare treasure. If Mo Qingyun saw this scene, he would definitely not know whether to laugh or cry. His unintentional action actually caused such a commotion, which was also unexpected. When everyone surrounded the small courtyard, Mo Qingyun was immersed in cultivation, wholeheartedly improving his cultivation. Time always passed quickly during cultivation. In the blink of an eye, 2 months had passed. Outside the gray space, Mo Qingyun, who was sitting there cultivating, suddenly had his aura skyrocket. In the blink of an eye, Mo Qingyun's aura had advanced from the peak of the Tao Nourishing Realm to the Tao Qing Realm. Mo Qingyun's cultivation had broken through to the Tao Qing Realm. As Mo Qingyun's cultivation broke through, he opened his eyes and revealed a surprised smile. The Tao Qing Realm and the Tao Nourishing Realm are indeed different. The power of my Tao seed is at least 10 times stronger than before. No wonder they say that cultivation is the foundation. If I had the cultivation of the Tao Qing realm before, I wouldn't have been so embarrassed when facing ZK and the others. Thinking of the encounter in the ancestral tomb of the shaman sorcery faction, Mo Qingyun sighed and immersed himself in cultivation again. His cultivation had just broken through, so he still needed to stabilize it. Soon, Mo Qingyun took out a large number of medicinal crystals and casually piled them around him. After taking out the medicinal crystals, Mo Qingyun activated the Xianqing scripture to refine the medicinal crystals around him. As Mo Qingyun continued to refine the medicinal crystals and absorb the medicinal spiritual power in them, his aura gradually stabilized. After stabilizing his realm, Mo Qingyun did not stop. Some anticipation appeared on his face. Since I've broken through, it's time to cultivate a divine ability. Chapter 2046. The first thing Mo Qingyun practiced was the bloodline ability, the Holy Demon Star Shattering Fist. Compared to the 99 Heavenly Demon God-slaying sword formation or the 9 Heavens Gods and Devils slash, the bloodline ability was much easier to cultivate. Mo Qingyun sat cross-legged on the ground and immediately focused on comprehending the bloodline incantation of the Holy Demon Star Shattering Fist. Under Mo Qingyun's wholehearted comprehension, his understanding of the Holy Demon Star Shattering Fist began to increase little by little. Slowly, Mo Qingyun stood up and instinctively began to practice the Holy Demon Star Shattering Fist. Under Mo Qingyun's practice, a sharp wave of immortal spiritual power was emitted from his fist. The immortal spiritual power on his fist gathered more and more, and the aura it emitted became stronger and stronger until it finally reached a peak. Holy Demon Star Shattering Fist. Seeing that the immortal spiritual power had gathered to the peak, Mo Qingyun raised his fist and punched out, blasting out an astonishing fist shadow. The fist shadow blasted out from Mo Qingyun's fist like a fierce tiger, pouncing into the dusky space. Boom! An earth-shattering sound came out from the dusky space, accompanied by a violent spiritual power storm. Sensing the movement of the spiritual power storm, Mo Qingyun frowned and unconsciously shook his head, saying, "No, the Holy Demon Star Shattering Fist's attacking method should be to throw out a punch, and the fist shadow's aura should be restrained, not revealing the slightest bit. The aura of the fist just now was too sharp. Emo Qingyun muttered to himself. He no longer hesitated and began to practice again. 1 punch, 2 punches, 3 punches, 1,000 punches, 1,001 punches, 1,002 punches. Emo Qingyun patiently practiced. As Emo Qingyun continued to practice, his mastery of the holy demon star-shattering fist began to become more and more proficient. Next, time quietly passed as Emo Qingyun cultivated. Of course, as time continued to pass, Emo Qingyun's harvest was also great, and his understanding of the holy demon star-shattering fist deepened. 3 months later, under Emo Qingyun's tireless cultivation, he finally comprehended the holy demon star-shattering fist to the great circle stage. After cultivating the Saint Devil star-shattering fist to perfection, Emo Qingyun did not stop there. He started cultivating the heavenly devil star-shattering palm. The cultivation method of the demonic star-splitting palm and the demonic saint star-shattering fist is different. It requires one to condense an extremely strong and unyielding aura. After analyzing the cultivation method of the heavenly demonic star-splitting palm, Emo Qingyun began to practice it, striking out with his palm again and again. Then, a series of domineering and ferocious palm shadows blasted out from Emo Qingyun's palms. Under the bombardment of Emo Qingyun's palm shadows, cracks immediately appeared in the gray space in front of him. Fortunately, the gray area in front of him was not a real space. Otherwise, with Emo Qingyun's attack, it really wouldn't be able to withstand it. 6 months later, under Emo Qingyun's continuous cultivation, the heavenly demonic star-shattering palm was also cultivated to the great circle stage. Seeing that the heavenly demonic star-shattering palm was also cultivated to the great circle stage, Emo Qingyun's face lit up with joy. Next, it's the 2-eye bloodline abilities. The 2-eye bloodline abilities are very powerful, but unfortunately, I have not been able to fully activate their power. It would be great if I could unlock their potential. Emo Qingyun muttered to himself. He began to cultivate the heavenly sun star-piercing pupil, intending to cultivate it to the great circle stage first. The heavenly sun star-piercing pupil uses the power of the fire Tao. If I can integrate the fire of civilization into it, it will definitely multiply its power. Thinking of the power of the heavenly sun star-piercing pupil, Emo Qingyun had a bold idea and immediately tried it out. A threatening fire of civilization condensed in Emo Qingyun's right eye, turning into an eye ray that blasted out. The eye ray had just blasted out, but it did not fly far before it collapsed. There was no cohesion at all. No, the cohesion and speed are not good enough. I did not use the power of the heavenly sun star-piercing pupil at all. Seeing the power of his attack, Emo Qingyun immediately shook his head, feeling very dissatisfied. It could be said that the heavenly sun star-piercing pupil he used this time could not even be considered a success. Thinking of this, Emo Qingyun could not help but sigh. The fire of civilization is really powerful. With my current strength, I am afraid that it is far from enough to use it freely. Emo Qingyun sighed. He sorted out his emotions and once again immersed himself in cultivation. Next, Emo Qingyun patiently tried to use the fire of civilization again and again. 1 failure, 2 failures, 3 failures, 100 failures, 101, and still failure. Although the integration failed again and again, Emo Qingyun did not give up. The more setbacks he faced, the braver he became. In his opinion, the harder it was to integrate the fire of civilization, the stronger the heavenly sun star-piercing pupil after integration. Soon, a month had passed. Under Emo Qingyun's tireless cultivation, he was finally able to integrate the fire of civilization into the heavenly sun star-piercing pupil. Although the fire of civilization had just been integrated into the heavenly sun star-piercing pupil, the power of the heavenly sun star-piercing pupil greatly shocked Emo Qingyun. Just the initial integration of the fire of civilization and the power of the heavenly sun's star-piercing pupil is comparable to the previous great success level. Seeing the results of the integration of the fire of civilization, Mo Qingyun was shocked. Strong expectations appeared on his face. If this is the case, if the fire of civilization is perfectly integrated, the power of the heavenly sun's star-piercing pupil will be extremely terrifying. With this thought in mind, Mo Qingyun couldn't wait any longer and put in even more effort into his cultivation. Just like this, another 5 months passed in the blink of an eye. After 5 months of continuous practice, Mo Qingyun finally integrated the heavenly sun's star-piercing pupil perfectly into the fire of civilization. Just as Mo Qingyun thought, the power of the heavenly sun's star-piercing pupil that was perfectly integrated into the fire of civilization had reached a terrifying level. With my current level of Tao Qing, the power of the heavenly sun's star-piercing pupil that is integrated into the fire of civilization can reach the level of Z Quebec. Seeing the power of the heavenly sun's star-piercing pupil, Mo Qingyun was stunned. He could not believe it was true. If this is the case, if I have the cultivation of the Saint Realm, when I use the heavenly sun's star-piercing pupil, won't I be able to crush ZK and the others? Thinking of this, Mo Qingyun was a little impatient. He could not wait to become a Saint Realm cultivator. Of course, Mo Qingyun knew that this was only a dream. This kind of thing was a little unrealistic. If he really did that, his foundation would become very unstable, and it would be detrimental to his future cultivation. The current level of the heavenly sun's star-piercing pupil should be considered supra-perfection. Mo Qingyun thought silently in his heart. He smiled brightly and was very satisfied with the results of this cultivation. After finishing the cultivation of the heavenly sun's star-piercing pupil, Mo Qingyun did not want to waste any time. With an anxious expression, he said, "Since the cultivation of the heavenly sun's star-piercing pupil has been completed, the next step is to cultivate the imperial seal-killing pupil. I wonder if I can cultivate it to supra-perfection level." Chapter 2047. Forget it, let's not think about it anymore. If it was so easy to figure it out, the super-complete realm would be worthless. After pondering for a while, Mo Qingyun stopped thinking about it and started to comprehend the bloodline skill of the Imperial Seal Spiritual Eyes. Under Mo Qingyun's comprehension, his understanding of the Imperial Seal Spiritual Eyes started to improve bit by bit. Soon, a strong wave of soul power gathered in Mo Qingyun's left eye. Then, a soul seal that emitted a mysterious power blasted out from Mo Qingyun's left eye. The soul seal blasted out from Mo Qingyun's left eye and disappeared in a flash. It blasted into the gray space. Got it! Seeing the soul seal blasted into the gray space, Mo Qingyun's eyes lit up and an idea came to his mind. The power of creation contains the power of both the soul and the matter. The level of power is much higher than soul power. If I use the power of creation to replace soul power, the power of the Imperial Seal Spiritual Eyes should be much stronger. As soon as this thought appeared in his mind, Mo Qingyun no longer hesitated and immediately took action to verify his guess. A pure power of creation gathered in Mo Qingyun's left eye and turned into a soul seal with a fierce aura. The soul seal that was formed by the power of creation blasted out from Mo Qingyun's left eye and blasted into the gray space. Under the bombardment of the soul imprint, an area in the gray space immediately turned into a vacuum zone. More importantly, the area became a vacuum zone and it did not recover for a long time. This was completely different from the previous situation. Previously, Mo Qingyun used a superpower to blast the gray space out of the vacuum zone, but it recovered very quickly. Unlike now, there was no reaction for a long time, as if it could not recover. Seeing this scene, Mo Qingyun's expression immediately changed. He couldn't believe that this was real. To him, this situation was too abnormal and strange. He knew that using the power of creation to perform the Imperial Seal Spiritual Eyes would increase the power of the Imperial Seal Spiritual Eyes. However, he had never expected such a strange situation to occur. It had completely exceeded his expectations. Judging from this situation, if others were to be attacked by his Imperial Seal Spirit Eyes, their injuries might become extremely difficult to recover from. In this way, the degree of terror of the Emperor's Seal Kill Spirit Eyes instantly increased by more than a few times. More importantly, this was the first time he had used it. As he became more adept at controlling his power, the power of the Emperor's Seal Kill Spirit Eyes would continue to increase. I wonder how terrifying the power of the Imperial Seal Spirit Eyes will be once they reach perfection. With this thought in mind, Mo Qingyun no longer hesitated and immediately began to work even harder. As Mo Qingyun continued to cultivate, he became more and more familiar with the power of the Imperial Seal Kill Spirit Eyes. In the blink of an eye, half a year passed. Mo Qingyun stopped his cultivation and revealed a joyful smile. He had finally completed the cultivation of the Emperor Madras Spirit Eyes. With the current power of the Emperor's Seal Spirit Eyes, an ordinary Saint Realm expert would basically lose his combat power after being hit by it. In addition, with the inspiration of the Emperor's Seal Spirit Eyes, Mo Qingyun made some minor improvements to the Demon Fist Shattering Galaxy and the Heavenly Demon Star Splitting Palm. Mo Qingyun realized that the power of the Demon Fist Shattering Galaxy and the Heavenly Demon Star Splitting Palm, using the Gate of Creation, had also reached the level of super perfection. In this way, his 4 bloodline superpowers had all reached the level of super perfection. With my current combat power, even without the Gate of Creation, I can still crush an ordinary Saint Realm expert. Looking at the increase in his power, Mo Qingyun revealed a faint smile. He was very satisfied with the results of his cultivation during this period of time. Mo Qingyun rejoiced for a while before he began to focus on his cultivation again. One should know that he had yet to cultivate the 9-9 Heavenly Demon God Slaying Sword Formation and the 9-9 Heavenly Demon Slash. Let's cultivate the 9-9 Heavenly Demon God Slaying Sword Formation first. Mo Qingyun thought for a while and decided to cultivate the 9-9 Heavenly Demon God Slaying Sword Formation first. It was relatively easier to cultivate. According to Mo Qingyun's estimation, even if his cultivation broke through to the Saint Realm, he would not be able to finish cultivating the 9-9 Heavenly Demon Slash. Now, cultivating the Heavenly Demon God Slaying Sword Formation first was naturally the best choice. Cultivating the 9-9 Heavenly Demon God Slaying Sword Formation was more troublesome than cultivating the bloodline superpowers. He still needed to sacrifice and refine some ancient swords first. After all, without sacrificing and refining the ancient swords, it was impossible to form a powerful sword formation. Under Mo Qingyun's continuous sacrifice and refinement, the ancient swords were successfully refined by him one by one. There was a connection between him and the ancient sword. In the process of sacrificing and refining the ancient swords, Mo Qingyun also began to control these ancient swords, allowing them to form a sword formation and change their attacking method. A month later, the number of ancient swords that Mo Qingyun could control in battle had reached the level of 30. 3 months later, the number of ancient swords that Mo Qingyun could control in battle had reached 49. Half a year later, the number of ancient swords that Mo Qingyun could control in battle had jumped to 64. A year later, under Mo Qingyun's unremitting efforts, the number of ancient swords that he could control finally reached the level of perfection. I've finally cultivated it to perfection. After an entire year of hard work, Mo Qingyun's mastery of the 9-9 Heavenly Demon God Slaying Sword Formation had finally reached perfection. After cultivating the 9-9 Heavenly Demon God Slaying Sword Formation to perfection, Mo Qingyun discovered that the power of the sword formation had instantly increased by several levels. As expected of a sword formation that can slay gods, Cultivated to perfection, its power is indeed extraordinary. Seeing the power of the sword formation at perfection, Mo Qingyun could not help but sigh. In his heart, he admired the war martyrs even more. This guy could create such a powerful sword formation. He was also a peerless cultivation genius. It's a pity that the grades of these ancient swords are not high. If they were all sacred weapons, the power of the sword formation would definitely skyrocket by 10 times. Looking at the ancient swords that surrounded him, Mo Qingyun's face revealed a regretful expression. He could not help but sigh. Although these ancient swords are not sacred weapons, with the current power of the sword formation, it's enough to kill an ordinary saint stage expert. Mo Qingyun muttered to himself. He no longer hesitated and began to cultivate the slash of the 9 heavens gods and demons. Because the grade of the slash of the 9 heavens gods and demons was too high, Mo Qingyun had not even cultivated the first form to the beginner level. The first form of the slash of the 9 heavens gods and demons was divided into 3 levels: Phantom, Solid, and Fleeing Shadow. To cultivate the Phantom to perfection, one had to successfully condense 9 phantoms. Mo Qingyun could only condense 6 at the moment. He was still quite a distance away from the first level of perfection. With my current level, it's unrealistic to want to completely cultivate the slash of the 9 heavens gods and demons. Mo Qingyun thought silently. He knew his limits and began to set a new cultivation goal. However, although I can't completely cultivate the slash of the 9 heavens gods and demons, there's still some hope of completely cultivating the first form to perfection. Chapter 2048. The first stage of Ghostly Shadow Slash, the Phantom stage, was mainly to condense more phantom doppelgangers to achieve the effect of confusing the enemy. The more phantom doppelgangers condensed, the stronger the confusion on the enemy, and the more shocking the power displayed. However, the number of phantom doppelgangers condensed was directly related to the cultivator's soul power. The stronger the soul power, the more phantom doppelgangers condensed, and vice versa. When I used Ghostly Shadow Slash previously, I did not keep my primordial spirit in my body. Therefore, it was not considered the strongest state. Thinking of the situation when he used Ghostly Shadow Slash previously, Mo Qingyun began to summon his primordial spirit, letting it return to his sea of consciousness. He wanted to see how many phantom doppelgangers he could summon in his peak state. Under Mo Qingyun's summons, a miniature version of Mo Qingyun flew out from the dusky space. The moment the miniature version of Mo Qingyun appeared, it emitted astonishing soul power undulations, giving people the feeling of an emperor. After refining the power of good fortune, the primordial spirit is indeed different from before. Sensing the aura undulations of the primordial spirit, Mo Qingyun revealed a look of astonishment. He was overjoyed at this situation, thinking to himself, although the strength of the primordial spirit's soul power is still quite a bit weaker than ZK and the rest, the grade of the primordial spirit's soul power is much higher than ZK and the rest. Under this kind of mutual cancellation, Mo Qingyun's current soul power strength was already close to ZK and the rest. Mo Qingyun muttered to himself in his heart. He no longer hesitated and immediately started to cultivate Ghostly Shadow Slash. Condense. Under Mo Qingyun's condensation, phantom doppelgangers that could pass off as real rapidly appeared beside him. 1 corpse, 2 corpses, 3 corpses, 9. In a short while, 9 phantom doppelgangers appeared beside Mo Qingyun. The 9 phantom doppelgangers' expressions, temperaments, and auras were exactly the same as him. Now, even those who were familiar with Mo Qingyun would find it hard to distinguish the difference between the 9 doppelgangers and Mo Qingyun. 9 doppelgangers. I've reached the peak of the phantom stage. Looking at the 9 doppelgangers beside him, Mo Qingyun couldn't help but be pleasantly surprised. He found it hard to believe. He knew that after absorbing the primordial spirit into his body, the number of doppelgangers he could form would increase. However, the fact that there were 9 of them at once was still beyond his expectations. Emo Qingyun didn't care about the current situation. In fact, it saved him some time. Since I've reached the peak of the phantom stage, it's time to cultivate the corporeal stage. After calming himself down, Emo Qingyun didn't waste any more time and immediately began the second stage of Ghostly Shadow Slash. The second stage of Ghostly Slash was based on the foundation of the first stage, increasing the power of Ghostly Slash to a whole new level. It would allow the illusory doppelganger to transform from an illusory form into a physical form and possess the same battle prowess as the main body. Once the 9 doppelgangers materialized, it would undoubtedly be a nightmare for the enemy. When Emo Qingyun thought of this, he couldn't wait to start practicing the second stage of the Ghostly Slash, Solid Shadow. Condense. As Emo Qingyun condensed his doppelganger, a doppelganger was quickly formed and punched at the gray hazy space. Instantly, a sharp fluctuation of immortal spiritual power was emitted from the doppelganger's fist. A ray of light flashed from the doppelganger's fist and blasted into the gray hazy space. However, what disappointed Emo Qingyun was that the doppelganger's punch was extremely weak. Compared to his normal punch, it didn't even have 1/1000th of its power. It seems that the difficulty of cultivating the second stage of Ghostly Shadow Slash is obviously much higher than the first stage. Seeing the doppelganger's performance, Emo Qingyun had some understanding and his fighting spirit was immediately ignited. No matter how difficult it was to cultivate, he would definitely succeed. In any case, he still hadn't thought of a way to deal with the Gate of Fortune's fragment fusing with his body. He couldn't establish the Gate of Fortune in such a short time, so he could only cultivate to pass the time. After thinking of this, Emo Qingyun's heart felt relieved and he calmly practiced the second stage of Ghostly Shadow Slash. In the following days, Emo Qingyun spent his time cultivating. In the blink of an eye, a year had passed. After a year of tireless cultivation, Emo Qingyun finally reached the peak of the second stage of Ghostly Shadow Slash. Now, he could easily condense 9 illusory doppelgangers. Since I've completed the second stage, it's time to cultivate the third stage of Ghostly Shadow Slash. Seeing his cultivation progress, Emo Qingyun's face lit up with joy and he smiled faintly. He began to study the cultivation chant for the evading shadow stage. After studying the cultivation chant for the evading shadow for a while, Emo Qingyun immediately had a clear idea of how to use the evading shadow. It seems that the third stage of Ghostly Shadow Slash, evading shadow, mainly integrates the law of space into the second stage. Thinking of this, Emo Qingyun's mind moved and he condensed a doppelganger. After condensing the doppelganger, Emo Qingyun controlled it and quickly slashed out a palm at the void. As the doppelganger's palm struck out, it immediately slashed out an imposing palm shadow towards the dusky space. Evading. The moment the palm shadow struck out, Emo Qingyun's mind moved and he controlled the palm shadow to attack the void. Under Emo Qingyun's control, the palm shadow immediately flashed and appeared in another place. Seeing this scene, Emo Qingyun's face lit up with joy and his heart began to beat faster. He was very clear what that attack meant and what kind of attack power it could display. Imagine a sword that was originally aimed at your head suddenly stabbing at your back. This was such a terrifying thing that it was impossible to guard against. So strong. Seeing the power of the evading shadow stage, Emo Qingyun could not help but sigh and he began to practice the evading shadow with all his might. When Emo Qingyun was practicing the evading shadow, what surprised him was that he was able to comprehend it very quickly. At this moment, he could not help but have an illusion, as if using the power of space was an instinct. Discovering this abnormal situation, Emo Qingyun revealed a pondering expression and speculated the reason for this situation. Although I have comprehended some of the laws of space, I am definitely unable to use them freely. There must be some secret behind this. That's right, the teleportation gate uses the power of space. Could it be that my improvement in the use of space energy is due to the Gate of Fortune fragment? Emo Qingyun's mind spun and he had some ideas. He thought of an extremely large possibility and analyzed. The teleportation gate's use of space energy is related to the evading shadow slash. They are of the same origin. It seems that my ability to quickly comprehend the evading shadow slash is due to the Gate of Fortune fragment. At this moment, the doubts in Emo Qingyun's heart were suddenly resolved. It turned out that unknowingly, the fragment of the Gate of Destinies had strengthened and transformed his body once again. Chapter 2049. It seems like it's not a bad thing for the fragment of the Gate of Fortune to merge with my body. After discovering that his body had been strengthened by the fragment of the Gate of Fortune, Emo Qingyun finally relaxed. All this time, he had been worried that the Gate of Destiny's fragment merging with his body would affect his cultivation. Now, it seemed that he had worried too much. The situation was not what he had imagined. To be more precise, the current situation was the exact opposite of what he had imagined. When the fragment of the Gate of Destinies merged with his body, not only did it not affect his cultivation, it even improved his talent. Although I lost a few martial soul remarkable abilities, it strengthened my physique and talent. This doesn't seem to be a loss. After comparing the gains and losses, Emo Qingyun laughed self-deprecatingly and stopped thinking about other things. He said, "Since my doubts have been resolved, I should cultivate with peace of mind and strive to master the evading shadow slash as soon as possible." As soon as Emo Qingyun finished speaking, he began to cultivate the evading shadow slash and familiarized himself with it little by little. As his mastery of the evading shadow slash increased, the evading shadow slash began to appear and disappear unpredictably. After seeing the power of the evading shadow slash increase, Emo Qingyun abandoned all distracting thoughts and wholeheartedly devoted himself to cultivation. Time flew by, and in the blink of an eye, another 5 years passed. In these 5 years, Emo Qingyun not only mastered the evading shadow slash, but also raised his cultivation to the 9 heavens' mysterious immortal realm. In addition, the Xianqing scripture had also been cultivated to the 6th level during this time. As the Xianqing scripture had been cultivated to the 6th level, the immortal spiritual force in Emo Qingyun's body had become much more powerful. Compared to the increase in his cultivation and strength, what made Emo Qingyun the happiest was that he was finally sure that the fragment of the Gate of Fortune would not harm him. Time really flies. I only cultivated in seclusion once, and 7 or 8 years have passed. Withdrawing from his cultivation, Emo Qingyun couldn't help but sigh. A concerned look appeared on his face as he said, "I haven't left this place for 7 to 8 years. I wonder how everyone is doing, and how the Fortune Immortal sect is doing." With this thought in mind, Emo Qingyun's figure flashed and arrived in front of the Fortune Immortal Gate. Arriving at the Fortune Immortal Gate's entrance, Emo Qingyun's footsteps did not stop as he rushed inside like an arrow. When Emo Qingyun walked into the Fortune Immortal Gate, his expression was a little dazed. He couldn't believe what he was seeing. In these 7 to 8 years, the Fortune Immortal Gate was completely different from before. It had undergone earth-shaking changes. Compared to 7 to 8 years ago, the current Fortune Immortal Gate's disciples' cultivation had improved by leaps and bounds. Udihai and the others have done a good job. The situation in the Fortune Immortal sect is much better than I expected. Looking at the situation inside the Fortune Immortal Gate, Emo Qingyun revealed a satisfied smile and inwardly praised Dahai and the others. "Palace Master is back. Greetings, Palace Master." When Emo Qingyun was looking around, Some of the disciples guarding the entrance immediately recognized him. Then, one of the disciples excitedly ran to report the news of Mo Qingyun's return. After the disciples' report, Udihai and the others immediately came out to welcome him. At this moment, in front of Udihai and the others was a beautiful figure with an outstanding temperament. This beautiful figure was naturally Qian Linglong. "Greetings, Palace Master." "Master! Qingyun." Everyone came in front of Mo Qingyun and greeted Mo Qingyun. They clustered around Mo Qingyun as he walked into the inner hall. After entering the inner hall, Mo Qingyun walked to the highest seat and sat down, sweeping his gaze over the crowd. After sweeping his gaze over the crowd, Mo Qingyun finally looked at Qian Linglong. His gaze immediately became gentler as he said, "Linglong, I didn't expect you to be in the Fortune Immortal sect. I can now do what I promised you." Since his seclusion had ended, it was time to fulfill his promise to Qian Linglong. "Really?" Hearing Mo Qingyun's words, Qian Linglong's face immediately lit up and she became excited. As the Holy Maiden of 1,000 illusions, it was impossible for her to not care about the survival of 1,000 illusions. However, it would be extremely difficult for her to save 1,000 illusions with her strength alone. Therefore, she had been waiting for Mo Qingyun's reply, waiting for Mo Qingyun to help her save 1,000 illusions. Now that Mo Qingyun had replied, she was naturally excited. She could finally save 1,000 illusions. Gu Yang and the others did not know about Mo Qingyun's promise to Qian Linglong. Now that they heard Mo Qingyun's words, they said, "Master, you don't know. During these years when you were in seclusion, Mistress had been managing the Fortune Immortal sect. Without her meticulous management, the Fortune Immortal sect would not have developed so quickly. You have been managing the Fortune Immortal sect for the past 7 to 8 years? Hearing Udihai and the others' words, Mo Qingyun's heart skipped a beat. He looked at Qian Linglong emotionally. It turned out that without his knowledge, Qian Linglong had been silently helping him manage the Fortune Immortal sect. Although there was an unclear relationship between him and Qian Linglong, Qian Linglong's silent efforts for him moved him greatly. Under Mo Qingyun's gaze, Qian Linglong nodded and pretended not to care. She said, "Anyway, I have nothing to do. It's good to find something to do in the Fortune Immortal sect to pass the time." Mo Qingyun naturally did not believe Qian Linglong's words. However, he did not correct her and silently remembered Qian Linglong's good intentions. After chatting with Qian Linglong for a while, Mo Qingyun changed the topic and asked about the Fortune Immortal sect's situation. After talking with everyone, Mo Qingyun was completely relieved. The Fortune Immortal sect was on the right track. What the Fortune Immortal sect needed now was sufficient cultivation resources and time to slowly build up its foundation. While asking about the Fortune Immortal sect's situation, Mo Qingyun had a clear understanding of Qian Linglong and the others' cultivation. Now, Udihai and the others' cultivation had all broken through to the middle stage of the Sage Realm. Even old ghost Huang Feng's cultivation base had successfully broken through to the Saint stage, and he was currently charging toward the intermediate Saint stage. As for Qian Linglong's cultivation, it was slightly higher than theirs. She had already reached the peak of the middle stage of the Sage Realm. Putting aside Qian Linglong and the others' cultivation, the Fortune Immortal sect's disciples' cultivation was much stronger than before. Under the careful guidance of Qian Linglong and the others, the first-generation disciples' cultivation was basically at the Tai Mysterious Immortal Realm. The second-generation disciples and the third-generation disciples' cultivation were mainly at the Golden Immortal Realm and the Great All-Embracing Golden Immortal Realm. A few of them had reached the Tai Mysterious Immortal Realm. Looking at the situation, Mo Qingyun revealed a gratified smile. He was very satisfied with the situation. At this rate, the Fortune Immortal sect would become a super force in at most 1,000 years. Chapter 2050. After learning about the Fortune Immortal Gates situation, Mo Qingyun explained a few things to Yudi Hai and the others before leaving with Qian Linglong. After leaving the Fortune Immortal Gate with Qian Linglong, Mo Qingyun did not rush to leave the Fortune mainland. Instead, he made a trip to Qingyun Valley. This time, he had cultivated for nearly 10 years. If he really wanted to calculate, this was the longest time he had been separated from everyone. Even when he first came to the Wasteland mainland and then returned to the Heavenly Soul mainland to unite with everyone, the time between was not as long as this time. When Mo Qingyun and Qian Linglong arrived at Qingyun Valley, they immediately attracted everyone's attention. Everyone excitedly surrounded them. "Qingyun, you brat, you're finally here. Why didn't you continue to hide? Cousin Qingyun, since you came back with Qian Linglong, when are you going to hold the wedding banquet? Alright, everyone disperse. Don't block Linglong's path." Everyone surrounded Mo Qingyun and Qian Linglong, chattering and teasing. The atmosphere was very harmonious. Because Qian Linglong had been in charge of the Fortune Immortal Gate in recent years, everyone was familiar with her. Therefore, when everyone was talking, they did not have any misgivings. After everyone dispersed, Mo Qingyun and Qian Linglong arrived at the main hall under the guidance of Mo Hong Tian and the others. In the main hall, after everyone sat down, Mo Qingyun asked about the situation in the valley. Under Mo Qingyun's inquiry, Mo Hong Tian narrated the recent situation in Qingyun Valley to Mo Qingyun. After listening to Mo Hong Tian's narration, a happy smile appeared on Mo Qingyun's face. As long as everything was well in Qingyun Valley, everything was fine. After chatting with Mo Hong Tian and the others, Mo Qingyun went to Yiwuo and the other women's residence to interact with them. After staying in Qingyun Valley for a few days, Mo Qingyun and Qian Linglong left for the 1,000 illusions. Swish swish in a flicker, Mo Qingyun and Huang Xiaolong left the Fortune mainland and arrived at the small courtyard where Mo Qingyun had set up the formation. Coming out from the Fortune mainland, Mo Qingyun's brows were slightly furrowed as he looked at the array formation. Someone is actually trying to break the formation. It seems like the formation is about to be broken. Sensing the situation of the formation, Mo Qingyun's eyes flashed with bewilderment. He was rather surprised by this situation and said in surprise, "I never thought that there would actually be a Saint Array Master in the old site of the Pill Master Temple. That really surprises me." Mo Qingyun was well aware of the power of the array he had set up. Only a Saint Array Master was qualified to break it. Judging from the current situation, the person who was breaking the formation was definitely a Saint Array Master. Should we stop him? While Mo Qingyun was still in shock, Qian Linglong also noticed that someone was trying to break the small courtyard's array formation. Hearing Qian Linglong's question, Mo Qingyun shook his head and revealed a playful smile, saying, "No need to disturb him. Since the formation is about to be broken, we'll wait here for him to come in." After Mo Qingyun finished speaking, he nodded at Qian Linglong and walked towards the stone table in the courtyard. Mo Qingyun sat down beside the stone table and took out a tea set. He brewed the tea leaves that the Pill Devil had given him. Seeing Mo Qingyun's action, Qian Linglong smiled sweetly and sat down beside Mo Qingyun. Subsequently, Mo Qingyun and Qian Linglong leisurely sipped their tea while waiting for the person outside to come in. Outside the small courtyard. At this moment, there was a sea of people outside the courtyard. Everyone was curiously crowding around the courtyard. It had been almost 10 years, but no one had been able to break the formation outside the small courtyard. Their curiosity about the small courtyard had reached an unprecedented level. They wanted to know what was inside. Today, under the invitation of the Mountain Yuan Celestial Sect, a Saint Array Master had finally come to help. Judging from the current situation, the formation was finally going to be broken. It was time to satisfy their curiosity. At this moment, While everyone was crowding around the courtyard, a terrifying aura suddenly descended upon them. Sensing the terrifying aura, the expressions of the people outside the small courtyard changed drastically. Immediately, everyone quickly retreated and no longer dared to surround the small courtyard. They could sense that most of the people standing above them were Saint Stage powerhouses. With so many Saint Stage powerhouses around, they could not afford to offend them. It was better for them to be careful. As everyone retreated, the Saint Array Master and the people from the Mountain Yuan Celestial sect who were trying to break the formation were exposed. Under everyone's gaze, a Saint Stage powerhouse from the Mountain Yuan Celestial sect looked at the sky with a tense expression and said, "Fellow cultivators, I'm Tang Liangyi from the Mountain Yuan Celestial sect. May I know who you are?" Tang Liangyi? Upon hearing Tang Liangyi's words, a young man in a purple robe who was standing at the front of the group of people in the sky raised his eyebrows. Following that, the young man sneered as a cold light flashed in his eyes. He said, "So you're Tang Liangyi, the person Saint Ziyunshao wanted to capture. I didn't expect you to hide here. Since I've bumped into you today, your good luck has come to an end. You're from the Dark Demon Clan." Upon hearing the young man's words, Tang Liangyi's expression changed drastically. Fear and dread were written all over his face as he said, "Sir, I know I'm going to die today. Before I die, I hope you can agree to a request of mine. After you kill me, please let go of my disciples and Silver Rock Saint Array Master." A few years ago, Silver Rock Saint Array Master helped Saint Ancestor ZK in the ancestral tomb of the Merman clan's sorcery faction. Naturally, we won't make things difficult for him. Upon hearing Tang Liangyi's request, the young man in a purple robe replied with a cold smile. He then looked at the disciples of the Shan-Yuan Celestial sect and sneered, "As for your disciples, let's see if you have the ability to save their lives." Upon hearing the young man in a purple robe's words, Tang Liangyi and the others' expressions changed drastically. Their faces turned pale. There were only 2 Saint Realm experts on their side. They were no match for the young man in a purple robe and the others. Under the gaze of Tang Liangyi and the others, the young man in a purple robe smiled coldly. He looked at Tang Liangyi and the other person and said, "I've always been merciful. Now I'll give you a chance. If the 2 of you can defeat me, not only will I spare your disciples, but the 2 of you can also leave this place." "Really?" Upon hearing the young man in a purple robe's words, Tang Liangyi was delighted and became excited. He could see that the young man in a purple robe was only at the quasi-saint realm. With the 2 Saint Realm experts working together, they were confident of defeating a quasi-saint realm expert. Of course. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.